We, the jury, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
Princess Diana dead.
Oh, she died. Where's the remote?
Vicky Smalls was also embroiled in a rivalry between East and West Coast rappers. His competition, Tupac Shakur.
It's getting involved, this is supported. Oh, this is outrageous.
I haven't got AIDS. I'm HIV positive.
Hello and welcome to Time. I'm JP.
I'm Gareth.
I'm Matty.
And I'm Liam.
And how are we all, lads? It's been a while since we've seen each other for one of these. It's been a few months now, hasn't it? And yeah, how are we all doing? All good?
All good.
All good.
Not saying anything else there, are we, lads? We are back. It's time. We're back in September 2007. So, like, the question we have to ask at the start of each and every one of these shows: where were you in 2007? And I'll start off with you first, Liam.
2007. I believe I would have been 21. So I would have started my first job this year. 21. Probably going to clubs, alternating between hip hop clubs in the week, rock clubs at the weekend. Spreading.
I like that, mate.
You know what? Because new metal was dead by this point, wasn't it, Matty? So you had to.
It's never died, Liam. It's never died. But yeah, I do know what you mean.
You had to fragment off to get a bit of both, rather than in the early 2000s. You could just go to the one club, and you
play all that.
You would get your Cypress Hill into Corn, and everybody goes home happy, don't they?
You do.
Yeah, would have been my first job. Would have had interest in nothing other than spending a paycheck, going out drinking, and speaking to girls. Pretty much everything a 21-year-old would do. Would have been at work. Would have done my first job. This is exciting. My first job was working in a socket screw manufacturers. Socket screw manufacturers. If you ever need to know about posi drives, all threads, M5 bolts and nuts. I'm your man. I've still got that information there. And on recent form, if anybody is looking for an employee, hit me up on Twitter.
Very timely. Although by the time this comes out, you might have had a job. In that stage, you could have absolutely loads of them at that point. God, yeah, 21. What a fucking time. Matty, what were you up to, mate?
Yeah, I'm same as Liam there, 21. And just, you know what, Liam, you're saying about rap and about metal and stuff. Do you know what kind of clubs I was hitting in 2007? Was house music clubs like Society and Garland's. Did they ring any bells to you, Gareth?
Oh, yeah.
Mate, I was living in there. My mate, Buff, he used to work in Garland. So I did as well. I've done a bit of glass collecting there for a little bit while he was behind the bar. I did, yeah. Probably strictly not little 6-month stink out of one of them little do the little run and then get off. But
good tips,
brilliant, mate. They were, yeah. They used to share them out equally as well, which was quite good. But it was one of them. It wasn't really working. It was a night out. You just walk around the floor pretending to collect glasses, throw them all in the big washer in the one of the rooms at the back, and then just walk around again, have a little dance. It was great stuff. But yeah, hitting all them clubs, and as Liam said, just 21 though, boys. I mean, no offense again, I always get it in early, don't I? Keeps away all day. But it seems like a long time ago.
Ding, 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 ding.
Well, speaking of which, Gareth, although I think what were you up to at this stage?
September 2007, I was getting married.
Yeah.
This is a very timely month for me, this one. But 29, weirdly, 29 to 21 doesn't sound as big a gap as normal. I don't know why. Normally it's because when we've done this in the past, I've been at university and Matty and Liam have been in primary school or something like that. At least we're both in the same decade at this point. Like, definitely, when I'm looking at some of the stuff that we're going to cover there with music and films and stuff like that, it just feels like just way off different time for me, kind of thing as well. Like, just been at this proper, just out, obviously, like I say, getting married this month, work pretty much dominating my life and things like that as well. Just been dead heavy on the work front and stuff. Obviously, all the shit you're doing with getting married and sorting all that out and stuff like that. So just I don't know, 2007 to me just feels like a full-on year when I'm looking at some of this and I'm thinking there's shit on here that I've never even heard of before and things like that, So it's wild, absolutely wild. You were in the same boat, weren't you? Same age anyway, give or take a week, JP.
Exactly. So yeah, that week makes a massive difference there. So at this point in time, what am I doing? I'm just about thinking of quitting my job to start to train to be a teacher, but also I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and so I know it was berserk. I was looking at stuff on this, and I was like, I couldn't even tell you who that was. I was just reading names out to Vicky, going, "Who's this? Who's Sean Kingston?" She's just looking at me like I'm a fucking maniac. And I went,
I can't believe that was the one you plucked out last time, and I can't believe out of all them you don't know who Sean Kingston is.
No idea at all. Plain white tees. It was and that was the weird thing at that point in time. Is I think there were the things I was into, but we're going to touch upon it as well. The fact that you had iPods and kind of Apple Music, or the precursor to it in iTunes. You had in some ways it was just I found the collection that I like, and that's good enough for me. It was almost I don't need your new bloody music and things like that. So it was almost it was easy for me to kind of reject a lot of things at that stage, because it was just I've got a limited amount of time, and the likelihood is I'm going to fall asleep in front of it as well. But although there's a surprising amount of the films that I've managed to I was
always your wheelhouse, that JP, though, aren't
oh
they?
Yeah. So, and the sport, which again I thought things were going to go well. How wrong I was towards the end.
Can I just say though, boy, that's why I love doing this show as well, because it covers basically the stages of life as well. Me and Liam are going out partying, trying to figure ourselves out. Gareth's married, and JP's got kids. It's great. That's why I'm doing this. It's great.
The 4 pillars of life. We've got booze, clubs, marriage, and kids, haven't we? For that, rather than as the show is formatted, it's 8 pillars. We're moving away from the 4 pillars that form the kind of structure of this show, which is music, film, sport, and TV. That are the 4 pillars of life. I know other people chuck in food and stuff like that, and it's I have to be said, I cooked for a subsistence life at this stage, and I'm imagining as 21-year-olds, you weren't exactly thinking and knock up some fucking Michelin star stuff on here.
Hey, GP, I was getting stuff on Tick and our Chippy when I was 21.
Scraps on Tick.
Dark place to be, but yes, that is in essence. If you haven't listened to the show before, haven't seen the show before, we cover the 4 pillars of life. And Matty, what is the order that we're going in?
We're going in.
What are the four pillars that we're doing?
Our usual order of music first, which music, then sport, then film, and then TV. That's the usual order, Liam, isn't it? It's been a while since we've done this week. That is the one, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is the one. So I think it's Gareth taking us first with the music, isn't it? So do you want to do your best top of the pops, considering you're the top of the pops religious view, You do your best there. And I won't say who to give it the top 10. You pick someone from the history.
Do my best. What? Nicky Campbell.
There we go.
Avoiding the obvious elephant in the room when mentioning top of the pops.
I was waiting for you to shade me there, JP.
I was waiting for JP to butt in there, to be honest, and go a bit earlier, but we won't go that early. No, but, we'll. So we've got the top 10 for the week of 16th of September to 22nd of September 2007, which was the week before I was married. So I now know what the number one was on my wedding day, which I didn't know before. But number 10, we've got She's So Lovely by Scouting for Girls. Number 9, we've got The Way I Are by Timbaland featuring Kerry Hilson, whoever that is. We've got number 8, we've got With Every Heartbeat, banger of a tune with Robin with Clear Up. At 7, we've got Girls Aloud, Sexy No No. Sexy No No No, even, I missed a no there. Number 6, we've got Shut Up and Drive with Rihanna. At 5, we've got, I'm not pronouncing this, AO Technology.
You're right.
Yep. 50 Cent, Justin Timberlake and Timbaland there. 1973, James Blunt at 4. At 3, by Kanye West. At 2, we've got Hey There Delilah by the Plain White Tees. And the number 1, JP's favourite, Sean Kingston, Beautiful Girls. Oh, what a set of tunes that is. Definitely.
Any of these on your playlist these days?
All of these on my iPod that I've got from like back at still on there. All of these, but fucking hell, there's a mix there, isn't there? I reckon when I first looked at the list, I was like 50% of these. Like, I'm not even. I don't know. Never if I've ever even heard. Well, maybe not 50%, 30% of them never heard in my life, sort of thing. So there's definitely things there where like you're going through and watching it, like James Blunt, 1973, never heard that in my life. Girls Aloud, never heard that in my life. But there's some good tunes there. Good. When I was like looking into that, like love that Kanye West tune. Love the 50 Cent with Justin Timberlake and Timbaland there. Love the Robin with Clear Up, absolute banger of a tune that I fucking love that. It's such a great song, and the Way I Are, the Timbaland one, another boss tune as well out there. So
reminds me of going out so much that tune.
Once I got into it and listened to it, I was like, actually, there's some stuff here that I just don't know by name, but actually when you listen to it, I'm like, some brilliant tunes there. Probably like a good representation of what was just going on in the music world at that time, really. I think the shift towards from a genre perspective, like moving a bit more towards that, a bit more like electronic, a bit more like hip-hop, a bit more R&B in there and things like that as well. It was sort of like that's what you were getting, weren't you, really, with commercial music at this time, like tripping over into there. I guess Matty, Liam, you two have got some bigger thoughts on some of these songs, given that these were your club-going days.
Yeah, I mean, JP's put this on first, and as Matty alluded to, Timbaland at this point was huge. He was quite prolific. I had a little list here of Timbaland songs around this period. Promiscuous, Nelly Furtado. Well, let me just establish this. From the period of April 2006 to where we are here in September 2007, Promiscuous by Nelly Furtado, which he featured on, he got to number 3. Sexy Back, Justin Timberlake, got to number 1. Give It To Me, Nelly Furtado and Justin Timberlake got to number 1. This, The Way I Are, was number 1 in June and stayed in the charts up until this point in September. Apologize from One Republic, which he featured on as well. That got to number 3 in the charts. And the lesser known, does everyone remember the Hives track that he produced, which featured the WWE Divas in the he did as well. And then also this year, he produced 3 songs on Red Carpet Massacre, which was the Duran Duran album at the time.
This shows you, Liam, how like everywhere he was, though. You're right. He was just
as well as 2 songs on Volta by Bjork that year as well. So Timbaland was everywhere. 2 years later, he even went on to do Chris Cornell's solo album, which he produced the whole album of as well. So a utility player, if there ever was one, Timbaland. Literally all styles, all genres, across the board. But Timbaland at this period is one of the first things I think of when I think about going to clubs and whatnot, is
100%.
Timbaland produced music.
That Promiscuous, Liam, and The Way I Are there, you do non-stop. It's one of them when you usually go on a night out and you get a couple of songs played, a couple of, like, you know, a few times. They were played like 4 or 5 times a night, and you weren't getting sick of them because they were that good, and you were just into them, weren't you? So AO Technology as well, yeah, another one. I used to absolutely, and what reminds me of this song is like the K3, like any listeners from Liverpool here, like, you know, the Crazy House, but the K3 was like your pop floor, or your, you know, your cheesy, your pop, your dance. And he put AO Technology on there, JP, and you would have thought Stone Cold Steve Austin walked out at Madison Square Garden. I am not, honestly, I'm not underselling this. The place went ballistic, JP, proper. You could hear the pop over the music. It was that loud. And there were some big speakers in the K3. Just show, he was Timbaland, like, one of my favourite producers, if we're going back though, Liam, as like into just, if he was strictly rapping R&B, even years ago, one of my favourite producers of all time, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is kind of a renaissance for his career, because up until this point, you would think, outside of his record with Magoo, which was a straight up hip hop record in the mid 90s, you would put him together with Genuine, Missy Elliott, Aaliyah. That's what you would think of with Timbaland. And then he kind of got with Justin Timberlake, and like there was this like second period of his career, whereas he's still now quite a prolific producer in terms of popular music away from hip hop and rap, which he initially started with.
JP, any thoughts on Timbaland?
I knew fuck all about Timbaland, which shows you exactly where my head was. So this was just like an absolute education of it. I would agree with you, certainly with like the way I are. Kerry Hilson, and again, this is conversation. Thank God, like if Vicky wasn't around to kind of fill in some of the gaps, I was like, Kerry Hilson, you did Pretty Girl Rock, didn't you? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So there's the odd little bits of it, but you like when Liam was speaking about just how prolific he was at that point in time, and you think of the different acts that he's working with as well, and these are kind of like, you know, the people who are the sort of superstars of the late 2000s into the early 2010s as well. So I mean, like, what's he up to these days? I'm assuming he's doing all right still. He could be dead for all I know.
By all accounts, he's still producing music. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, as I'm so far removed from popular music in 2023. I wouldn't have a clue. But you do see him pop up now and again doing stuff.
I'm surprised he didn't burn himself out in 2006 and 7 by what you were saying there. It looks like he was doing stuff for fucking everybody at this point. Like, it's just a busy boy. It's just like weird that you just get like, again, I'm oblivious to fucking half of that, but then you're saying there the volume of stuff that he's doing and the volume of artists he's working with and things like that. Just the idea that like in that concentrated period of time, like doing so much, but like, I mean, some of the like other stuff on this list. Is there anything that like jumps out to your ear that you think like fucking hell, that is a tune other than what we've said there that's like really stands out for you for any reason?
I'm a Girls Aloud mark, aren't I? So I've got to say, Sexy No No No. That's right. You know, I love Girls Aloud. One of my guilty pleasures. First ever concert I ever went to, boys.
No guilty pleasures, mate. Guilty
pleasures.
First ever concert. I've told you the story as well about where I nearly got to the very, very front. I've never told that story. I'll have to tell it now, all right?
Well, did security stop you?
You genuinely did, but I'll tell you why now.
Oh, sorry.
So I went with my sister and my 2 nieces, who must have been, this is 2009, so my 2 nieces would have been like 16 and like 13 at the time. So I go, and my sister's there. So they done a bit where in the concert where like most like Kiss do with all the rock bands, where they drop like a stage in the middle of the actual arena and they walk across and they perform basically in the middle of the crowd. And like we were like about 5 rows from that, so we were quite close anyway. So the security was like, you know, any kids, you can usher them to the front. So I went, sound, I'll take our Amy forward. I'll get to the front here so I can get right up to them. So the security goes, oh, is that your daughter? So you must have thought I was our Amy's dad. And I made the grand mistake of saying, no, I'm her uncle, it's my niece. He said, well, you can't go through them. It's only parents and children allowed to go to the front. And I was like, you bastard. I could have went to the front. But our Amy, you know, I kept an eye on it. I think our Julie took her forward. But yeah, that's my story, lad. I was nearly front row, literally front row for Girls Aloud.
For me, Girls Aloud are a weird one because I always, in my head, have the timeline from Spice Girls in terms of the big girl group to Girls Aloud. But Matty, it's your first game of the night that you've waited for.
Here we go. Here we go. All for this,
So
Liam. All for it.
So how many number ones did Girls Aloud have?
Oh, right. So you go first two went to number one without even thinking about it. So that would have been Sound of the Underground and No Good Advice. They were number ones. And then this would have been number one. The Promise would have been number one. There's 4. Biology. I don't know if that got to number one. I'll just say, Liam. I'll just say 5.
Oh, close. 4 number ones, which I thought was quite low. Which I thought was quite low for them. Quite low.
Prolific top 10s though. Prolific.
But in the world of Brucey, higher or lower, Little Mix number ones.
Oh, I'd say definitely higher. The way they stream these days, I'd say higher, Liam.
Correct. Little Mix 5. Sugar Babes, higher or lower with Little Mix. So higher or lower 5.
Lower, but just.
No, 6. Sugar Babes
6.
6
Wow.
number ones.
Fucking hell.
All Saints.
Oh,
higher or
that's definitely,
lower than 6.
that's definitely lower than 6.
5, just 1 lower.
No.
And then the Saturdays, higher or lower than All Saints.
They'd be lower.
Yep, Saturdays only had 1 number 1, which surprised me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's your broad brush, more of which are not.
How long was Girls Aloud's run? Like, how many years were they?
Oh, Gareth, you had a few runs, mate. Come on. You can't write off Girls Aloud, do you, mate? Saying they're like you said, what wrestler we compared them to, JP? Gareth thinks they only had a short little run. Who would that be? Ultimate Warrior?
It wasn't a warrior.
Spice Girls are Hogan.
Oh,
Yeah,
here we go.
They are.
Well,
Yeah, the Spice
to
Girls
be
are
fair, you've got to be
definitely
honest.
Hogan on this as well. I don't know whether for me, Girls Aloud are kind of like, they've kind of got like a Sting vibe to me. They like never quite got that big run at the big time, but critically they were light.
I'm going to say, JP,
I don't know whether or not I'm just basing this all on pure shores, and it all just goes from there, really.
Girls Aloud's matches are better than Spice Girls matches, though, yeah? We haven't that. Spice Girls are bigger stars, but Girls Aloud have got better matches for me. Spice Girls have never had that. They had that 1 or 2 big match, Gareth, but not a consistent run of them.
I'll tell you what, though, the Sugar Babes were Bret Hart.
big fan then. What version, though? They were like the Midnight Express, getting someone different in all the time.
They can work with everyone, can't they?
What was that very first?
Like the
Sugar Babes
NWO,
song?
mate,
Like
for the
the
amount of people who are in and out of that place.
Overload, Gareth.
Overload, yeah.
Was that when they still had the ginger girl in there? That was a fucking belter of a tune.
Yeah,
that first.
great song that.
Yeah, can we just go round the rooms quick then? We'll do. You list them girl bands again, please, Liam, and we'll give you our favourite tune by each band. Go on.
Okay, I'll start from the bottom up. Fucking hell, Saturdays.
Oh, fucking hell, Up. I like Up by them.
I don't know any.
Don't know any. At all.
Yeah, so Atomic Kitten.
It's got to be Whole again, hasn't it? Big tune, that big track.
I can't think of any off the top of my head. I've just got Iceland advert. And it might be because I'm seeing Gareth here in picture. Because I like to think that was his parting gift on the world, was Kerry Katona doing Iceland ads.
Next up, All Saints.
He butchered Under the Bridge, Gareth, didn't he? He killed that. He absolutely
Pure Shores is a tune, isn't it? Like,
Pure
Shores, yeah. Or Black Coffee, I liked as well.
Yeah. Black Coffee was pretty good as well. I'm just having a look here. Booty Call was all right as well.
Criminally underrated band, Girls Aloud.
And then we had, what was the next one up? Sugar Babes, I think. Overload. Did we all agree on that?
No, I'm going Red Dress. I love that. I fucking love that song.
Not that Gary Newman weird cover. That.
I like that. Freak Like Me. I like that.
Yeah, Freak Like Me. Yeah. Little Mix. I couldn't name a Little Mix song if you paid me.
The one with Stormzy. Is it Power? I like that one.
I'll take your word for that. I don't have a clue.
This is where the old man vibes just come through.
We'll get to Spice Girls in a minute, JP, don't worry.
I'm feeling closer to the 2 at the top of the screen than I am at the 1 at the bottom of the screen at the moment.
A new side to be getting shown here, boys.
And Girls Aloud. What did we say for Girls Aloud?
I do like Sexy No No No. That's like a proper that's a hidden gem. That's like Bret Hart versus like Barbarian. That Gareth. That's what that is.
I've literally never heard that song in my life. I put it on and I was waiting to like.
The Promise is the IWC, Liam. Sorry, Gareth. That's the IWC.
Yeah. I would say that. I'm a big fan of Call the Shots. I think Call the Shots is a very IWC shot song for them.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
That's the only one I know. It's called
Sound of the Underground. Is that?
Yeah, you don't know.
Yes.
Is that Girls Aloud?
Yeah. Sound of the
That's when we won the Pop Star show, isn't it? That was the song they come out with.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll go with that one. Even though I was a big One True Voice guy, but I'll go with the.
Could have had Love Machine, Call the Shots, The Promise,
The Show,
Jump.
not Paul White.
Something new, something kind of who. Don't know that one, JP. Don't ring any bells.
It's not up for me at that point in time.
You went, bad songs there, Matty.
No good advice. I'll Stand By You cover.
Oh, I don't mind that one. I'll tell you, it's a good best of, boys, I tell you.
Glorious stuff there. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I meant to say, like, cracking band, All Saints. I don't know. And it might have been the fact that they went out with the two Liams, didn't they? One from the product, Liam Howlett and Liam Gallagher.
Yeah.
So I always thought that would...
Those are the two Liams. Thanks, mate.
Those.
Spice Girls.
Best Spice Girls song.
Ooh.
I like Spice Up Your Life. I like
my reputation is going to take a tank in here.
It is, Liam.
Two become one.
Two become one. Yes.
Yeah.
Christmas song. Is it a Christmas track?
Oh, Goodbye. I was always a fan of Goodbye. That was a good tune. That was
sloshy, you, that Gareth.
You are
a bit sloshy for you, bit like a ballad for you.
I'm with you. Yeah, two become one, but it might be because it was played at the end of discos and stuff like that. You went to.
Is that actually about safe sex, that song? Or am I getting fooled all these years? Is it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That was one where you got up, where you made up
really?
about that when you were younger.
I was
yeah,
today years old when I learned.
Put it on, JP. Tonight, put it on. Come on.
Didn't come out in September 2001, but there we go. Yeah.
So based on our previous editions of Time, JP has admitted to liking U2. And currently in the news, top loader. So, fan of James Blunt by any chance, JP? 1973, is that on your
his
rotation?
Twitter feed? Yes. Like, I have to say, he was bloody great value on there. Not taking any shits from anyone on there. It was like people who listen to James Blunt. It's one of the things. I wasn't necessarily like the oldest of dads. So one of the things was, it was like, what some of the older guys, and I'm not like them. I don't listen to that. I'm happy in my mid-90s to very early 2000s zone here, and I'll stick within that. So he kind of, I heard him, and I just thought ages used to go Anodyne and everything else. Although he himself seems like he's quite funny. He just makes music. I hear it, and it just goes in one ear and out the other. And I kind of feel the same way about Ed Sheeran. Brutally honest. Well,
that's the equivalent of a story I heard when I was a kid, that one of the fellow dads said to my dad, "Do you like Lighthouse Family?" And I've never seen my dad in such a rage in my whole life at the mere suggestion that some other dad says to him, "Oh, do you like the Lighthouse Family?"
not as much as he likes Dido, though, isn't it?
Well,
that's exactly where he would have been.
Everybody listens
to you bring up the Twitter feed there, though, with James Blunt, and that's the ultimate like babyface turn, that one, isn't it? Because it was just someone who you just had just nailed down as just like shite music, just thought, oh, he's a cunt kind of thing. But then the Twitter feed, you're just like, what a guy! Like, just like good just comebacks and all that on everybody, just like great little one-liners and stuff. Just a proper U-turn there on Blunt.
I don't know how familiar you guys are with this song outside of listening to it for this, but you know, this song's about partying in Ibiza. You wouldn't guess it from the video, would you?
No.
Was he not in the army at that point as well?
I think he'd left by this point, but this whole song's about partying in Ibiza.
Because I always think to myself, if this is about Squaddy's party life in Ibiza, then there's stuff he's crucially leaving out in all of this, I'd imagine. fight with the police, for example. Like, you kind of expect him to start bringing that up.
I mean, this looks like the shittest party in Ibiza ever. If that's what this is. Like, fucking James Blunt in his leather jacket walking past wooden pallets and stuff like that. It's not what I've got in my head when I think about a fucking night out in Ibiza. But
I mean, it would have been funny if he'd cut to him being in an Only Fools and Horses theme bar, eating ham, egg and chips or something like that. I would have could have preferred him to do that instead.
I mean, obviously we've gone through the top 10 there as well, but you're just like, it's a funny year for music as a whole, like 2007. I was just looking at like some albums that were released that year, just trying to get my head around like, okay, well, if I wasn't listening to this, what was I listening to? And then like you had like range of like different stuff was released here, like Radiohead in Rainbows, MGMT, Oracular Spectacular, Arcade Fire, Neon Bible, LCD Sound System, Sound of Silver, Arctic Monkeys, Favorite Worst Nightmares.
I was never an Arctic guy, Gareth, ever. Never.
Linkin Park, Minutes to Midnight. Yeah, I bet you had that.
Yeah, I stop after that, though. That's my limit. The first two are in my top 5 of all time. And then I stop. Minutes to Midnight was all right, to be fair. And then I stop after that. They go too much, like, they veer off a bit for me there after that.
But I was struggling here. I was looking and I was thinking, well, what was I listening to? And then I just realised, nothing then kind of thing. Like around this time, I was clearly just like stuck still listening to like
Here Comes the Bride
90s stuff. Yeah, because you had things here like Queens of the Stone Age, Foo Fighters had an album out, White Stripes, Sicky Thump was out. So that was like good like that year. But yeah, not tons here that I was like picking up myself. I think the one album that was here though, that it's on the list here that was referenced that I did buy and I did love at the time, which might surprise you, is Kanye, Graduation. And that's like one of the things that's on the list here. And, it's sort of almost like written down here as the Kanye's Graduation versus 50 Cent's Curtis. I don't know if
Big war, Liam,
you've got bit of backstory on this one, Liam.
There is. Basically, 50 Cent said he would retire if he didn't sell more albums than Kanye West's Graduation. Both of them were released on the same day. 50 Cent pretty much made a run for his own back at this point because I think 50 Cent was... I think the greater music listening public had moved on from 50 Cent at this point. Matty, you were a big 50 Cent man?
Where were you? Guy, yeah, 50.
Where were you at this point? Were you a Curtis guy when you bought it?
Yeah, and all like my mates weren't though, Liam. That's the thing as well.
Yeah. I kind of felt that his first album, or the first big album, Get Rich or Die Trying, that was massive, absolutely huge. Classic. And I think it was an album that people wanted at that time. Gangster rap had kind of died off, and that coming out, also getting the endorsement of Dr. Dre and Eminem at that time as well, as an artist that were under their wing, made it a huge album. But also just that album as it was, you could just tell the hunger in 50 Cent to release an album at that point. Curtis was released and it was more, or from my point of view, it was more 50 Cent is now a businessman who is selling headphones, selling vitamin water, selling trainers, selling clothes, and music was secondary to him. Whereas Kanye West at this point was very in touch with what I think the hip hop public wanted. And I don't think that was anything premeditated. I think it was more so the fact of music had moved on towards his sort of sound. Just for instance, with Graduation, some of the samples that are on there, you've got Steely Dan. Obviously, what we've got on here with Stronger is a Daft Punk sample. It was stuff that wasn't heard before in mainstream hip hop that was in the charts, what Kanye West did with Graduation. And ultimately it ran rings around Curtis at that point. And I don't think 50 Cent ever really recovered in terms of album sales or anything. The perception of 50 Cent has always been after that he was a tier down from someone like Kanye or so, which when looking back at something like Get Rich or Die Trying, he was the biggest rapper in the world at that point.
Biggest music star when that dropped. Yeah. I mean, that was like, you did the nail on the head. I can't, even as a 50 guy, I can't deny what you've just said. Like, even the second album, The Massacre, that still shifted units, didn't it? He was still like, still a big deal. And he was when Cage was come up. But as you say, Kanye just come out. And I was never was never a Kanye guy, and I never have been either, to be honest. But all my mates were like your Crewies and like your Garys and me Joey, my mates. They were, well, Joey maybe not because he was 50, but like what you're saying, Liam, there, the public who kept up with it, it was shifting towards Kanye West, and yeah, you can't deny what he's done. Like, so
you see me there as not a massive like hip hop guy or anything like that. Like this was, I fucking love this album when it came out. You know, I wasn't buying a lot of new music at this time, but I fucking bought this when it came out, and it was just like, it felt like evolution kind of thing. It really felt like something new and different and things like that, with the electronic side to it and things like that as well that was in there. It just felt like a step beyond, and it definitely felt like innovative to me. And you know, it's still like, it's one of those now where like my Mrs. Sarah, she'll be like with all like a Kardashian stuff and all that, and you just see Kanye being a bellend and things like that on that TV show and things, and I'm just like, oh, what happened to that guy? Like that guy who I actually loved that album like in 2007, and it's just mental what's happened to him. But this is still one that I throw on now. Like great stuff. This,
yeah, like you're saying there, I think also that played into a lot of this. I mean, Matty would not like if I didn't produce the numbers, so I have the numbers in front of me.
I was going to ask
Billboard album sales for this record. So 50 Cent's Curtis on the first week 691,000, where Graduation did 957,000.
It's like an XC and AEW this week. That genuinely is though. Dating this podcast, like
was Edge on Curtis's album?
The Undertaker turns up at the end of Kanye's album.
There was that one song that started with "You Think You Know Me," but that's
can I just say though, Liam, on Curtis though, I know it did get panned as well, really, but I do like "I Get Money." Is it? That's a big,
which was the single,
That's like one of 50's last hurrahs, as in like, you know, that sound he has, and it was in your face type thing before he did go all ballady, and he'd come back, as you say, he never maybe had the albums later on, but he had like "Baby by Me" with Neo, and he always dropped them songs in, didn't he, with that, and he went that route. But
like you were saying earlier about Timbaland, in terms of songs you always remember from the club, "I Get Money" was a massive song in the club when that was released. I remember that, and a lot. I think a lot of that played into that Kanye West, like Gareth was saying about that Kanye West album. It was with it using samples that were familiar to people who did not necessarily listen to hip hop, and the subject matter. It did cross over to other things. It wasn't just hip hop radio shows or hip hop radio stations that would play Kanye West. It would cross over onto something like, I don't know, like a Steve Lamacq show. And you would be exposed to it via that rather than having to seek out hip hop. And I think that was the strength of Kanye's record. And I also think this whole feud that was created by 50 Cent about, I'm going to retire if I don't sell enough. If you look at 50 Cent's best work, it's always been stuff that he's kind of created a beef to justify the narrative. Every one of his records is built around having an issue with somebody or something. And I think that's what his narrative was with this record. Whereas now, after getting beaten in this and growing older, I think he still tries to do the same, but it's almost like nudge, nudge, wink, wink with some of his feuds and his rivalries and what he says on Twitter and stuff. There's a bit of self-awareness with him. Whereas at this point, it was, I'm calling you out. I'm going to sell more records than you, but I didn't. And I think ultimately that did kind of pull him back in terms of who he was and where he stood in the grand scheme of things of rap.
Liam, are you a full-on Kanye guy? Like, did you follow all his albums? No, you're not. No.
To be surprisingly, up until about this point, I like Graduation. Anything after that, I'm not a massive fan of. I'm not a massive fan of the bigger, more revered records of his. I like Late Registration.
College Dropout, the first one.
College Dropout. I like that. I like it up until like 808 and Heartbreaks, when it's all synthesizer. I
was going to say that's the IWC one for me. That I think people love that, don't they? And then like, Heartless and stuff.
My Twisted Dark Fantasy is usually the one that people call his best record, but no, I jumped off at a point with him. I just didn't think the hype and the critical acclaim of him was justified. And then there was so much else around him that put me off. That I think his first 3 albums that's the 3 albums you need to listen to when it comes to Kanye. But beyond that, beyond 808s and Heartbreaks, not really a fan now.
Okay.
He'd even crossed over into my world, and I was listening to nothing new. Although some of the albums you mentioned there, it was like I got into LCD Sound System like kind of years later, and it was just like Sound of Silver is fucking incredible as an album. Just give a shout out to that as well.
I mean, other stuff from a music point of view that was going on at this time was 30th of September was the 40th birthday of Radio 1, which, you know, is something which is pretty mental because it was pretty like formative in like music tastes and things like that. Obviously, you know, you talk about like your top 40s and things like that. You're doing the countdown, obviously, you know, looking at your top 10s and stuff. That was always a thing that you, I don't know, Sunday afternoon and stuff like that, when the charts were important and things like that, throwing it on there and getting the old tape deck lined
physically
up there.
going by it, Gareth.
To hit record as soon as they started to play it, and try and miss the DJ's voice, like when you're getting the tunes that you want there. But I don't know. It's one of those where I just think it's just like a different entity now. Like you look at that there, and it's been like the 40th birthday of Radio 1, but probably those first 40 years were like really important, whereas probably the last 20 years or since that point really less so. I don't know. Like I think of it, and I think of like Evening Session and Steve Lamacq and Joe Wiley and things like that, been like so formed by music opinions. I've got a Sonic Youth t-shirt on. That would have been the first place I ever heard Sonic Youth and stuff. Would have been on like on Radio 1 on them evening shows there. It was like your gateway to your popular music and things like that. Like I say, through the charts as well. And just like a real big part of growing up for me. Was it different for like you guys? Been younger? Does Radio 1 mean less to you?
Yeah, well, for me, as you said, it was very important in shaping my musical taste. I think Radio 1 was. When I would listen to Radio 1, I mean, off the top of my head, Mary Ann Hobbs used to do the rock show in the evenings. There was Mike Davis that used to do a show called The Lock Up, which was a little bit more punk based and stuff. And then obviously you had like Steve Lamacq and Zane Lowe. I think Zane Lowe had took over by the point when I was really listening to it. But the thing I always remember about Radio 1 at those points is that it always seemed much more than it does now, because I seldom hear Radio 1 unless I'm at work or in a car or so. But it seems so much more fragmented now. Like, it sounds weird to say this now, but like something like, let's just say Metallica, for instance. There would be times where a Metallica song was played at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Radio 1, and you would hear it and you would have a sense of excitement that something that you like and enjoyed was being played on a national radio station, and it had crossed over to that point. I mean, someone like Mary Ann Hobbs or Joe Wiley wasn't shy on playing stuff that was a little bit off the beaten track in terms of music, and I think that's very indicative of how the charts were back then. I know Gareth's a massive fan of Top of the Pops too, like myself, but you just look through the top 40 charts and how diverse they were in terms of music, genres, that everything was all encompassing. So you didn't necessarily need it to be into house music to know a house record. You didn't need to be into rap to know rap records, because you would look at the top 40 charts, especially if you listened to it on Radio 1, and you were exposed by a lot of this stuff. And then you also had your shows that would cross over with all these different genres of music. Whereas what I hear now is that everything is very secular in terms of how music is presented on Radio 1, is that this is our rock show, this is our hip hop show, this is our dance show. Everything else is popular music, and popular music is so, I don't want to say close-minded, but very much the format of what a popular song is very much perfected now, that a lot of those songs in the top 40 all follow that same template, that you don't get that crossover anymore in terms of hearing stuff. Like, you know, I remember being young and having the charts, and you would have Michael Bolton in the top 5, but in the top 10 you would have a Wild Hearts record. That you can't fathom stuff like that anymore. And I think that being a thing on Radio 1 and listening to the chart, the charts on Sunday afternoon, 4 p.m. was appointment listening at that point.
Yeah.
You would listen from 40 to 1 and you would know every song in the charts. Even if you didn't like him, you'd know every song in the charts. And that's my overbearing memory of Radio 1 in the fact of how everything was seamlessly mixed together, that you were not into rock music necessarily, you weren't into hip hop necessarily. This was popular music, and popular music was very widespread.
Yeah.
It's a very I think you kind of hit the nail on the head of saying it's just a very segmented and fractured. Like everything is segmented and fractured, but nonetheless, like sort of BBC Radio itself is, because they want everything to be categorized, because that's how they want it to work for you going on to, well, these days going on to BBC Sounds or going on to the iPlayer. Everything has to be into a neat kind of category for it. Whereas there was the case where it was kind of, it felt more kind of DJ led. Maybe that was it. But then there's also a generational thing with Radio 1 where you get to a certain age and you start listening to Radio 2. You know, it happens as an you're not quite sure how it happens, but there is generally like a kind of evolution for it. And Radio 2 is a bigger listenership than Radio 1. Radio 1 has the influence as well. So it was always like it will play a formative part, I think, in people up to a certain point. But then it's how many of them like would have grown up listening to Radio 1 Extra or something like, or Six Music.
I was going to say, you become like me, as Joe Lemon likes to call me, Six Music Dad. You know.
Yeah.
Well, can I just say,
you listen to Atlantic 252, were you here, Matty?
Oh no, that was 95. That's when I was playing wrestling figures on the landing. Gareth. That was just like, that was honestly, that was my day. I don't know what to talk about 95, but just setting me pay-per-view up and me figures with Atlantic 252 on. The glory days. But my three memories of Radio 1 was, like you said, the charts every Sunday, even if it was just for the top 10 for me. If you're out playing footy in the street, get in for the top 10, go back out and play footy. Never forget, Linkin Park's second album, the first single was getting world premiered, Somewhere I Belong, on Radio 1. And I remember getting up extra early before school because it got played like 10 to 8. And I just recorded it and just played it on my Walkman, looped it all day. Play, rewind in sixth form, and it was just like the greatest song I'd ever heard at the time. You know what I mean? Love that. And then I know he's you know, in the news for all the wrong reasons, but I can't deny Westwood, Liam, at the time. Like that was appointment listening of a Saturday night, mate, to get all the new rap songs. He got it before like anyone got these like exclusive, like Freeway with Jay-Z and stuff, and just stuff you'd never heard, and you were like recording it, and I was putting it on my mini disc, Cameron and Diplomat, and that was like, never heard nothing like it. It was just really like a really good show at the time, that Westwood.
Well, that was the thing back then, in the fact of music, new singles, new artists, and that their greatest exposure was the radio play. Whereas now with downloading and, you know, YouTube and whatnot, that appealing to a wider audience is no longer the radio. As JP and Gareth were saying, whereas Radio 1 at the point, everybody at my age when it was their anniversary, 40th anniversary, would listen to Radio 1. It's now fragmented off that if you like a certain type of music, you'll listen to Six Music. If you like hip hop, you'll listen to 1X and 1 Extra, sorry, and you'd move on. And music now is, the reason to listen to a radio is seldom there anymore. It's very, very much something to have on in the background rather than something you listen to.
Yeah, but that I think there's that big side of it though, is as well. Like, it's got to be. It's almost like there's more pressure for it to be successful, isn't there? Like these days or something now, with like when it comes to like a single and things like that, there's sort of almost like less room for like experiment, and there's less room for, you know, how often, like you say, like Liam there, like we're both top of the pops fans, like watching the old ones and things like that. How often do you see like something that just like went in at number 40 and it just had time to breathe, and it fucking eventually like got to number 5 or something like that, but it grew over time? There's no fucking room for that these days. It's like you've got to be like bang, you've got to be in, and you've got to have that like level of success and things. So it's just like, just the whole environment and everything like that is just so like massively different. And like a big part of that is obviously, you know, you talk about streaming and things like that there. Another big thing that we've got on the list here for 2007 is the Apple iPod Touch announcements, and, you know, that that coming out, and it's just bizarre to think. Now obviously we've all got our music on our phones and on our streaming apps and things like that on our phones. But
whoa.
yeah. some of us do. But yeah, this coming out was like, I totally forgot. I meant to grab it because I've still got my first iPod there, the one where you like scroll past and it's got all the album covers on there and things like that you can see on the screen that I think was on this video that we like seen here. But like, it was mind blowing at the time, the idea to like that you could just like you could have 100 albums there and just scroll through the album cover and listen to what you wanted on demand, like sort of thing. Fucking 2007 absolutely blew my mind. The idea that this was a thing. Were you still a physical loyalist at this point, Matty, or were you flirting? Were you flirting with a bit of iPod here? Or?
No, yeah. Well, what it was is that obviously I had me, we Walkman. Then I'd done this compact disc player, but I was a big mini disc guy, boys, like a real big mini disc guy. I had that for a good number of years, and then the first time I ever seen an iPod to get it back to 50 Cent was in the PIMP video, Liam, at the start, the original white iPod. And I was like, what the fuck's this? And my mate Joey got one. And I was I used it more than he did in school, basically all on every in sixth form, because I just used to borrow it off him. Yeah. He put all the stuff on. But then, like, I said, I never had a touch. But the original, like the classic, I've got the classic iPod, the 60 gig, the granite one, like, and I'll never get rid of it. I still pay me £2.99 fucking insurance on it, boys, each month. I still pay. I'm never going to get that replaced, am I? If it fucks up because they don't exist anymore, I need to cancel that. I see it every month.
Or it's a collector's item. It's worth a fortune. Yeah. It's one of the two.
Not with some of the shite I've got on at JP. It's not. But 31 Undertaker themes, mate. Come on. But like, I'll never get rid of it though. Like, even if it does break down, as you say, JP, it's that collector's item, that ornament that I'll always keep. The white headphones, it's just iconic, isn't it? It's just one of them things that you can never deny. And like, as Gareth said, I'm a big physical guy, but some things in life you just can't ignore. You can't ignore it, and that just took over the world. And amazing stuff. Amazing.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of the first pillar of the evening. That takes us to the end of music. Now we move on. If I'm correct in thinking, we move on to film. Who's doing film this month?
It's me, JP, with the films.
Hey.
It's me with the films. So
you will hear, obviously, the Barry Norman,
of course,
new theme tune.
Of course, I like that. I'll always say Barry Norman ahead of Jonathan Ross. Always.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, always. The
Mate,
OG.
it's obscene to say otherwise. He is.
Yeah. Right, we ready then? In number 10, we've got Shoot 'Em Up. Coming in at number 9, it's the 310 to Yuma. At number 8, it's Knocked Up. Number 7 is Disturbia. Number 6 is Death Proof. Number 5 is the Bourne Ultimatum, Corker. Number 4, Superbad. Number 3, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. Number 2 is Atonement, and coming in at number 1 for the weekend of the 21st to 23rd of September 2007 is Run, Fat Boy Run. Now, boys, I'll be honest with you, I think I've done me totaling up here. I've only seen 4 out of the 10 films here. The ones I've seen is Superbad, The Bourne Ultimatum, Knocked Up, and the 310 to Yuma. I've never seen Atonement. Am I in the wrong for that, or what? Anyone want to give me no good?
I've seen it more times than I care to admit, simply because I've taught it. Teaching films.
I don't know who's in it.
Atonement was always coming up on it. So it is it's Keira Knightley and James McAvoy who appear in it, as he says, trying to get the trailer up on the screen here. It's an adaptation of an Ian McEwan novel set in World War II. It is actually very good, I have to say. Like it is, as the screen starts going completely berserk. But there we go. It's all about the unreliable narrator, this film, as much as anything else. Now, I hate period dramas, but I think through sheer attrition of having to teach about it, it was like, oh yeah, like, so I won't lie. There's a part of me that my heart kind of sank, and I went, oh Christ, not this again. Which is bad. I also say it about This Is England simply because I've seen it so many times, like in the classroom. Just like, for fuck's sake, this again. But Atonement is surprisingly good, and it's Joe Wright as well, who is a kind of, I don't know, he feels like he's the kind of guy who took over from Merchant Ivory, dare I say it. He's tried to make stuff that isn't effectively period dramas. But this is, you know, it's the beginning of Saoirse Ronan's career as well. It's very well acted. It's very well made. It is the kind of thing that is like, it's somewhat compelling. I mean, and Keira Knightley was probably at this stage like kind of on her rise as much as anything else. And it did well at the box office, like over here, relatively speaking. A decent film, Matty, but I'd struggle to see a situation where you think, let's stick on Atonement tonight. This will be good for an hour.
No, anyone else want to add any words to Atonement there? JP, give it the good breakdown there, boys.
No, I've never seen it. That's one on the list I've never seen.
Right.
Likewise, one. I think I've only seen 3 on the top 10 there, Matty, as well. And this is just one of those that I would have seen the trailer at the time, and like for me, it's just like this is just Oscar bollocks kind of thing. Like, you know, there's always like, you know,
you're not wrong, mate.
There's always that English Patient or something like that I'm never going to watch kind of thing. And to me, it's just immediately categorized with the English Patient in my head as something that I'm never ever going to see, and I never will.
Whereas
JP Shell, though.
I hate McAvoy as well. I just don't like him. Like he bugs my life. Like I've never seen him like him. His face just annoys me, so I'd never watch it for him. He's just one of them people I can't have.
I would be confident we've all seen this at some stage.
Yeah, of course.
I feel somewhat typecast by that comment.
Oh, sorry.
No, I have seen because I've seen it.
Can I tell you the Superbad story? Quite quickly? I'd never seen it up until about like 3 years after it come out or whatever. And my mate Joey just lent me it on it. Well, I say lent, he gave me it on DVD, because whenever you lend me something, you might as well just be giving me it. So he gave me it on DVD, right? But he actually wanted it back, right? So I said, all right, sound. So what had happened was, when I went to give it back to make sure it was all nice and clean and whatever, I found out it was snapped in half down the middle. Right? And I couldn't tell you how that happened, because I'm quite JP. I put my DVDs back in my box. I look after me stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it proper baffled me for years. There was it couldn't have been a straighter line right down the fucking middle of the DVD.
Why are we checking that it was clean? What have you been doing to Joey's DVD?
No, but it's like, you know what fingerprints or dust or not on it. Gotta come on, I look after me things, mate. You know what I mean? So, but yeah,
did you buy Joey a replacement DVD?
What do you think, JP?
I'm assuming the answer's no. Don't stereotype. Did you steal it?
He was so fucking angry though, and he's never been angry with me over much in our friendship. He was so fucking pissed off with that he went and bought himself it. You know what I mean? But yeah, he fucking loves this film anyway. He fucking loves it.
As I was saying about Timbaland earlier with music, this is where Judd Apatow had his 2 years of absolute film after film. 40-Year-Old Virgin, was it? Knocked Up, funny people as well. There was like a period of 18 months he released all those films, which I think all four of them are pretty decent films, to be honest. I do like of course it is. Yeah, I do like Superbad. I think for that genre, that sort of film, for that sort of genre, I think it nails it. I think it's a really good film.
Well, McLovin. I mean, whenever I see that, I don't even know his real name. Whenever I see him turn up and enter, and I just shout to the telly, "There's McLovin." I just love him. Great.
Is this something like Mintz Plasse is his surname? I'm sure I've seen him in other stuff, like kind of Step Brothers. I know it's Step Brothers, but
he plays that McLovin role on every film, doesn't he?
He pretty much does. But you're right about Judd Apatow. I mean, I put up on here like the trailer with Knocked Up as well. You've got the kind of rise of the slacker kind of comedian. They were like, it was like they were kind of like in love with the kind of silly high school film. Here's how many of these guys okay, whether it's Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill, who's in both of them as well, like the kind of living the geeky stoner dream, weren't they, as much as anything else? And it was like, you'd find these kind of quite these quite slobbish guys inexplicably ending up in this situation. And the concept of like Knocked Up, for example, is quite weird in the sense that, like, rather than these days, dare I say it, if she ended up pregnant after a one-night stand with him, she'd just have an abortion, wouldn't you, really, as much as anything else? But then, because of plot, that's not really making a kind of light-hearted comedy, is it, that's going to get to #1 at the box office if you're doing that? Otherwise, what's 4 months,
Knocked
3
Out.
weeks, and 2 days, the Romanian horrific film about a backstory of I digress. That might have been out about this point in time as well. Yeah, Knocked Out. But yeah, he was absolutely prolific at this point as well.
Has anyone seen this?
Set a template, loads of careers. I've seen Knocked Up.
Yeah, I've seen Knocked Up.
Yeah, I've seen Knocked Up.
Have you? I haven't seen this. I watched this trailer and I was just like, I'm glad I haven't seen that. Like, this was one that, like, when I was going through these trailers, watching them for this top 10, I was like, yeah, I'm missing nothing there. Like, but tell me I'm wrong.
Well, surely, Gareth. No, surely then, if we're passing by these that you don't, surely you're a fan of the Bournes. Surely, mate. You've got.
Oh,
to.
yeah. I did, like, definitely enjoy them. And, like, as soon as I like turned the trailer on there for Bourne Ultimatum, I was thinking, like, oh, is this the one with like the parkour style scene, like on the top of like going over the houses in Morocco or wherever where it is, like,
what
just
scene that is.
It's just one of those that just like sticks in my head completely. But this was this was this the third one or was this the second one?
The last one, the trilogy, yeah.
Like that trilogy, just in terms of, I always just think of it as it just been like making James Bond, the James Bond franchise, have to go like, oh fucking hell, we need to fucking pivot here and up our game here, kind of thing, because of what Bourne did, like, just in terms of just the fucking action scenes and things like that. It just felt like it was as good as it got at this point. And and again, it's not necessarily like a genre of film that I'd be massively into, like, personally, but seeing all of these at the time, loved everyone. It's just like, really felt like it sort of kicked the genre on to another level with these, like big time. And even enjoying them, and it been Matt Damon as well. Like,
that's
just
it, kind of
just forgetting that it's Matt Damon and just losing it.
Damon's all right, mate.
To be fair, like, I put these off because of that, because I thought, like, me mate Joey, once again getting a few shout outs on this episode, is like, he was like, honestly, for years, watch this, and the first time I watched them was in the original lockdown. I was like, I put them off for that many years, boys, just because I thought, how's Matt Damon going to pull this off? It just won't make sense to me. Watched them back to back in lockdown and was glued to the telly. It did that good. Honestly, the way they've done, as you say, Gareth, like that Waterloo station scene where how tense is it? It's just fucking like, honest to God, he nails it. He was born to play that role, and he's been in other great films, hasn't he? And he's had Oscars and all stuff. But he was born to play that role. He was fucking incredible.
Very literally, he was in the title. Yeah.
There's no pun intended.
No, sorry, he actually wasn't.
I've actually used that Waterloo editing sequence in, like, kind of teaching about film and stuff, and teaching about editing and how to create tension. And a lot of this comes from Paul Greengrass, like the idea of getting him in like a documentary filmmaker. Because I mean, the first one, I think Doug Liman as a kind of mainstream Hollywood director is generally okay. Although there's that film he made with Hayden Christensen where people jump through time and stuff like that. It was a load of old bollocks. But like Paul Greengrass, on the other hand, he was the one who kind of really put in the kind of shaky cam, handheld, ultra realistic aesthetic that these films kind of had, which then Bond ended up bringing to the fore. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of, say, like No Time to Die and everything else, but I think what this managed to do was kind of, it just had a very stripped back feel, particularly like beginning necessarily from like the second
Give
one.
Bond the edge. It did. It made Bond have more of an edge and a more realistic vibe to it. Definitely.
Yeah. And it kind of changed the way that, I mean, by this point, we've seen this in terms of fight film choreography. We've gone through the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon phase as well, of wire work and stuff that's kind of come through the Matrix. And so it's all very much like kind of, you see Taken, for example, and it completely steals this. It's aesthetic entirely from this. But if you're going to steal from it, it's a good place to go, because that's what people want. and you sort of blur it all with this kind of like hyperkinetic kind of editing style. I mean, I like these three films. Then you have, I think it's the like Jeremy Renner film.
Bad, that one. I'm not a big fan of that.
Not good. And then you've got Jason Bourne as well, and it just feels like, oh, we're getting him back for the sake of it. Whereas really, it kind of ends here as much as anything else.
I've got the second one, JP.
Cast.
The second one's the best one for me. The Bourne Supremacy with Brian Coxon. Remember that? That's the best one for me. They're all 4-star and over films. Like, I've just on my letterbox, I give Bourne Supremacy 4.5. That was my favourite one. Fucking yeah, I'm going to go and watch them back, JP. Actually, I'm going to go and watch them back, mate.
Oh yeah, can't go wrong with them at all. Of these on it, I haven't seen. I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry. I won't lie, I haven't.
Is that one of yours, Liam? Have you seen that one?
I think I saw it at the time. Yeah, very much of its time.
21-year-old Liam loving a bit of Adam Sandler. I can easily imagine.
I will tell you what I do love on this list. Number 9, 310 to Yuma. I think that's an absolute great film. I think Christian Bale and Russell Crowe in that are absolutely amazing. I think that by far and away is my favourite film on this list. I just think it's a great film. I think it's a really good film.
Is it James Mangold who directed
the original?
I think it might be JP.
Who's a kind of, again, he works within that big Hollywood system as well. But
you're right, like, JP. It is him.
And I think sorry, I didn't want to cut you off on it. I think this is a point in time again where we weren't seeing many westerns being made. Certainly not big budget westerns. It's like they're very cyclical as a genre, but they kind of come in and out of fashion, like lots of genres do. And then we end up with a competing film, and everyone goes, "Well, we've kind of had enough about it." That's why we've not had a film about volcanoes erupting. We had 2 in 1 year, and 2 at the same time, and that was simply enough. But we weren't seeing like kind of many sort of westerns being made. And this is a remake as well, and you know, from what I can remember of it, because again, it was a while ago when I saw it. It's very much a kind of like an actor's piece as well. Like it's you know, and Mangold's coming off, like it says on there, coming off Walk the Line as well. So he's which was an enormous hit. Dad's favourite film of recent years. But yeah, I remember I might have to go back and watch this again, but like I can remember it being very good in the kind of lost era of Russell Crowe post Gladiator and the types of films that he made. Kind of, you know, taking a few risks with his roles.
Yeah, no, classic. Brilliant, mate. That you singled this one out, Liam. It's I love Christian Bale. Like, so anything he's in, I will give a watch. And this, and I got into westerns as well, more or less during lockdown. So when I seen this when I first seen this Bale and a western, I was like, sign me up for that one.
This is one of these films for me that's always been on my list of I'll watch that one day, like because I love westerns anyway. Big like Christian Bale, that like never watched this, and like and then when I put the trailer on, I was like, why haven't I just watched this? And it's always one of them. Oh, I'll watch that next week. I'll watch it next week, and suddenly 15 years has gone by, or 17 years has gone by.
Some more of them cans of Steve IPA, Gareth, and settle down and watch that, mate. You'll have a cracking night. Well, anything else, boys? Anything else? Death Proof? I mean, what? No, never seen it. What is it?
So it's Quentin Tarantino, mate.
Really?
So this is when, and I was deep into my BitTorrent at this point. Deep, because I wasn't going anywhere with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So it's just like, yeah, I'm not fucking going anywhere at this stage. So what we got is this was half of Grindhouse, basically.
Yeah.
So there was this, and there was is it Planet Terror?
Robert
Rodriguez film as well. This is Tarantino and his kind of like, my God, he shows his genre films at the best of times, but bloody hellfire. They could do whatever they wanted, really. And this is kind of like the ultimate example of it. It didn't make a lot of money. So over here, in order to try and claw back some of the cash elsewhere outside of the US, because Grindhouse is a double bill with the fake trailers in the middle as well, which were great. What ended up happening is they ended up splitting them into 2. So we ended up with Death Proof's second film, which is a kind of, was it Stuntman Mike, who is Kurt Russell, absolutely love, who's got his car, who's got a penchant for killing young women, basically, in it as well.
Does this count as one of Tarantino's like filmography is in his 10 films? Does it?
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's about, like all of his fetishization all kind of neatly included in one here. But it's him just wanting to do genre films for a relatively low budget, knowing full well the studio's going to give him whatever he wants, and at that stage as well, it's Miramax as well. So we are talking Harvey Weinstein. Me Too hadn't happened at this point in time, and he could just do it because you wanted him on side, because whatever his next film was going to be, you wanted to be you wanted to be producing that. So if he says he's going to make Grindhouse, and that's what it is, where really it feels like he just wanted to make a film that could be shown at the Austin cinema that Rodriguez owns and the rest of it, and just say, yeah, that's just play on here on an absolute loop. As a film itself, I think it's fine. I don't think
it's a bit too much of a pastiche, I think, kind of thing of like it's a bit try hard, I think, in parts. Like there's the things where he's tried to make it a bit like, like an old Grindhouse film, but it's almost like in his attempts to make it dirty and old, it's then become overproduced for me in some ways. Kind of like that. I think that was my overriding thought at the time. Like I remember thinking, I love Kurt Russell in it, but I thought a lot of everything else about it just felt a bit try hard kind of thing, or so like a bit too much, like really. But I'd watch it again. I would watch it again, like.
Tarantino's quite guilty of doing that, getting into a genre and then just absolutely pastiching it. But there was a recent remake that came out 2 weeks ago, starring Edge as the main role, wasn't it? For his AEW video.
He was. A stuntman Mike, fucking hell.
Well, I was going to say,
I'll always say I'm a massive Kurt Russell fan, but that's because of his John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Is Michael Madsen in this film? Because it's not a Tarantino film without him turning up.
I don't think he is. I don't think he
is. It's a relatively of the people in the film, like Kurt Russell is the kind of biggest star per se. There's more stars in Planet Terror, which is just kind of really wacky as much as anything else. And I would always say for the Grindhouse film, it's going back and watching the trailers. Like I can't think of the names of them off the top of my head, but I always think of the Edgar Wright one, for example. It's like a Christmas horror that has Nick Frost at one point as like a baby downstairs, like a baby cannibal, and he's like a massive nappy. And there's one by Eli Roth that's pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
And Nicolas Cage's Fu Manchu, like it sounds like wild shit.
Have you seen Planet Terror? Because I never have. Like I've seen, I watched Death Proof, but I never saw Planet Terror at that time.
I have. It's I don't know. Like it was fine. I think if I can remember rightly, I think I preferred it to Death Proof at the time, just simply because it's wackier and it's less kind of up its own arse of how much I love this particular type of sleazy film. Like it's a lot more sort of like unabashed fun, but it's very slight from both of them. But then Robert Rodriguez, if we're going to be honest about it, really hasn't made a lot of kind of substantial films. I mean, if anything else, it's Spy Kids, and then pissing away all that money on that network that Lucha Underground was on. It seems to be a gigantic waste of fucking time and money, ultimately. But yeah, it's funny because there's a new Spy Kids one which I have seen here in the house, and I was just like, mate, Robert, we're just not trying anymore, are we?
Pays the bill job, isn't it?
It is a complete pays the bill job. Would I do that if I was in his position? Fucking absolutely.
Matty, I had you down as a big shoot 'em up guy. Have you seen Shoot 'em Up?
Shoot 'em up?
Yeah, number 10 on the list. Have you never seen that?
Never seen it, mate.
Not to spoil it. It's Clive Owen in a Van Damme film, basically.
Well, you've sold me on the Van Damme bit, like.
Paul Giamatti's in it as well.
Yeah.
Is this the one where he's carrying a baby around for quite a bit of it?
Yeah.
I remember the trailer.
Monica Bellucci's in it as well, yeah.
Does it feel like are we at the point where we can make anyone an action star type of deal that we end up with Liam Neeson doing it? Quite late on career and the rest of it. It's just like, he's a good actor. We're just going to stick a gun in his hand and basically hope for the best, and we get a new kind of action film. It's
a weird top 10 from top to bottom, isn't it? There's no big blockbuster in there or anything that had all like a load of hype behind it. It's all like solid films within their genres, isn't it? It's like you have those.
Run Fat Boy Run is.
I was going to say, let's talk about the number one, Simon Pegg. Like, just because it's the number one, really. And I've never been a Simon Pegg guy. I mean, that I might be in the minority there, but I've never been into him in Frost or is the films and the TV shows. Really, is that a bad shout? Is it, boys?
I like it. Bad shout, but it's a different shout to me.
I grew up. Spaced was like.
Spaced. My brother loves it, JP.
Film. Yeah. Sorry, an iconic.
He's your age.
He loves it. Absolutely. The cultural references were designed for this as well. I think what's interesting about this film is it was effectively a very British film. It wasn't a film that did like gangbusters in the States, but just caught on over here because people quite like Simon Pegg. And it was one of these things where he'd made this. They'd made Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz. I'm not as high on. I haven't seen Hot Fuzz for a long time. I'm not as high on. Like for me, it's always Shaun of the Dead. By far and away is a better film than Hot Fuzz, and it's by far and away a better film than The World's End. This I never saw because I just thought when you see the trailer, and I was reminded watching the trailer again, I know exactly what's going to fucking happen here. There is no mystery whatsoever. He's a bit of a dick. He wants to win his girlfriend back. So what's he going to do? He's going to run a fucking marathon. Like the end. Like that's kind of like where we are with this as a film. It's not complex, but it's that kind of, it's very easy crowd pleasing entertainment that I would resent people spending their money to go and see in the cinema and ignore all the kind of good art house stuff. I'd have been a proper snob like that.
It's funny you mentioning Hot Fuzz. Like that just reminds me of like, I don't know why my dad was down. We must have been getting measured for wedding. I don't know if it was wedding suits, whether it was this year or whatever. He was down anyway. We had some time to kill while someone was going to. So me and my dad just randomly went to pictures for the only time in our life together, and we watched Hot Fuzz. And at the end, my dad's only comment on was, "It was a bit far fetched."
Mate, he wanted gritty Cumbrian drama, and was he getting that? Was he fucked? He was set in that London as well. There's the problem.
I do like Simon Pegg in the Mission Impossibles, though. I'll give him that. I'll give him that one.
You're saying about Simon Pegg and liking Spaced. I always was a big fan of Big Train that he did. That was like my first introduction to Simon Pegg. I used to really like.
David Schwimmer directed that, by the way.
Yeah.
Just to throw that out there as well.
Wild.
Mad.
Well, is there any other comments on any of them films, boys? Or
the one I was going to ask you about was because when I went through and watched these trailers, like I hadn't seen it, and I started watching the trailer to Disturbia, and like I'm a big fan of Rear Window, and then like I was watching it, and I was like, oh, here we go, just right. But then actually by the end of the trailer, I was like, oh, that looks like something that I actually want to watch it. Like I was intrigued by it a bit with that. Has anyone actually seen that? Is it worth 2 hours of my time?
I would say no. It's okay. it's
honestly on this podcast.
If you've got a choice between watching that and 3:10 to Yuma, you're watching 3:10 to Yuma. This is the tips I'm going to give you. It's okay. It's okay if you want to watch something like that film. It's okay, but it's nothing that hasn't been done better before.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I'll go. It's the kind of film where Shia LaBeouf is starting, like he's being set up as a star. He's been given that push, basically.
He looks so young here, JP.
Which ends with the kind of young. Lex Luger-ish, him appearing in an Indiana Jones film to, in theory, take over the franchise. And actually what ends up happening is he just never spoke ever again. It's just like, let's pretend this didn't happen at all.
Coming off Transformers,
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
That was his big main event from the start. There, as you say, pushed right to the main event, really.
I like the look of the heel in this. He's some good heel work going on. I thought.
He's a bit of a creep, isn't he? There he is. I'm trying to think of who plays the bad guy in this. But yeah, I think it was one of these films that kind of it did well enough at that point in time, and it was cheap, and it just proved to them, oh, can he carry a movie? Yes, he can. And it's like it kind of appealed. David Morse, that's the actor's name. Cracking actor. I think I last saw him in like Concussion years ago. But yeah, it's a decent film, I would say. I know we've not spent any time on I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry, but this is Adam Sandler before he became good, with the exception of like Punch Drunk Love, I think.
Adam Sandler had his first run, JP, in like the 90s, and then for me, he fell right off, and then he come back like an Indian Summer, like bloody. Who can we say that about? Like you, I don't know. Who's went away?
We're seeing Zac Efron gonna do it as well. We're really dating it here. The Iron Claw is shit. Like that could be an issue.
Uncut Gems is the Sandler film now, isn't it? That's the, That's the one
well
that
done.
you hold up. Oh, it's great. It's a great film, but I think half of the plaudits for the film is it's Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
you know, playing that sort of role. That's
it.
I think it's a great film. I still think Good Time's a better film, but
I was going to say I think Good Time is a better film.
I think Good Time's a better film as well. I'm a good big Safdie Brother fan, but I think Uncut Gems is a real good film as well. Yeah,
teaming up with Nathan Fielder next, aren't they? With a series on Showtime, which looks mental. I'm not quite sure what to make of it whatsoever. So yeah, that'll be
right. So are we all done with the movies section of this, boys? Yeah, and shall we move on to it's the sport now? Boys, and it's Liam. You're going to lead the way on the sport, mate.
I am. Let's have a look what we had for the sport. I've got in here in brackets passive mention, but on the 7th of September, the Rugby World Cup started. Matty, any memories of the Rugby World Cup?
Can I have a hunch that New Zealand or Australia won it? Is that right? Or South Africa? No.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was one of them three, to be fair. We're going to be one of the British countries, was it?
Thankfully, Gareth's back to tell us all about it. Rugby Union World Cup, Gareth. Your memories.
Well, you got the name right anyway.
Any overriding memories of this Rugby Union World Cup, or is passing mention in brackets next to it suitable for this subject matter?
I liked the highlighted yellow text on this one. I was a big fan of that. I will say. No idea who won it. No idea what happened. This could have been the year England won it for all I know.
That's 03, isn't it? I know that one.
That was 03.
Yeah.
They got to the final in 07. They lost to South Africa in the group stages in the openers, like one of the opening games of the tournament, and then met again in the final, where it was just attritional, dull Springbok Rugby Union. Sorry, without the risk of upsetting.
You didn't need the word Springbok in there. It was just attritional dull Rugby Union. That was presumably what it was.
This was even particularly worse, and it wasn't a good England side.
Was this one that's never ending?
Like the currently one is.
Was this one as never ending as the one that's currently on now? Where
the format's been changed, hasn't even I know.
I've got no idea, but I go on the BBC app every day and I'm like encountered by like a glimpse of like Rugby Union. I'm like, and quickly like tap football at the top to just get. I don't even want to give it like a hit. I'm trying to avoid it even getting a hit that like someone's actually like seen it on the app or something like that. But it feels like it's been going on for about 4 months that I've been trying to avoid.
The players aren't looking after the players.
I'm dating it. Because after people listen to this, either they'll hear me talk about nothing but the Rugby World Cup, or I'll never mention it again, depending on how a result tomorrow goes.
It'll still be going. It'll still be on when fucking people. If someone listens to this in 3 months' time, it'll still be fucking going on the way it's.
Are England in it, JP? Are they still in it? England?
Oh, they are, because they're on the easy side of the fucking draw. But I mean, in this one, Ireland went out in the group stage because they were in there with Argentina and France. So I would have given up at that point. I was just distraught that Ireland had gone to a World Cup and underperformed yet again, which may or may not be applicable when people listen to this. So
JP, is this the one that Clint Eastwood made the film Invictus about? Is that this?
No, he made that about the '95 World Cup.
Oh right, sorry,
that's the Nelson Mandela.
Oh okay. So Matt Damon's in that, isn't he?
Matt Damon as Francois Pienaar as well, who's a lot taller in real life and as a back row forward. But there you go. But yeah, it wasn't a great World Cup. The notable thing is it's held in France, like the one currently is, and it's probably still going on by the time people have listened to this. We're only just getting the quarterfinals this weekend, and then it will just be on weekends. It will just be on Saturdays and Sundays, Gareth, so you can happily ignore it.
So yeah, that was the passive mention about the Rugby World Cup.
Tried.
But onto another World Cup that was going on at the same time, which Gareth probably got more thoughts about. It was the inaugural T20 World Cup taking place in South Africa. Now, I remember this quite well because T20 cricket was still a bit of a novelty at this point. There's a few notable things in this. Stuart Broad going for 6 sixes in an over, which is the most expensive over in world cricket still, I believe. It may have been beat by memory last year or so, but also it was host to the first ever bowl-off in an international competition. Now, to explain what the bowl-off was, it was cricket's idea to do a penalty shootout to decide a tied game at the end of a match. I don't know if JP can bring it up to show to show viewers what it was, but it was
sounds good though.
It was wild watching this today. It was quite the first time ever.
It was quite the spectacle. So basically, Matty, it was a bowler, your best bowler. Well, you choose a bowler. Everybody has one chance of bowling, and you've got to bowl at the stumps and hit the stumps. And that was what it was, because the match ended on a tie and it had to decide who went through in the group, being a World Cup.
Which Pakistan, I might add blue.
So could you not just chuck it underarm though, Liam? I'm just like,
you fucking can't, mate.
Surprisingly, there is a rule with how you can bowl in cricket. I mean, I like your idea there, but I don't necessarily think you.
You'd be well up for the man cat and all sorts, wouldn't you?
You can
wouldn't
do
give
a
a
penalty,
shit about
can't you?
the traditions of cricket.
You can pass it on a penalty.
So here we go. This is India going first. You're going to hit the stumps. There you go. That's the first one, like a penalty shootout. You see the score at the bottom. There you go. One to India.
Has this ever happened again, Liam?
No, they've got rid of it now and replaced it with what's called a super over, which is an additional over at the end of the game where you can elect the batting team can elect their 2 best batsmen and the bowling team can elect their best bowler. They bat first. Whatever the score is, the other team then gets a chance to supersede it. If they don't, then they're beaten.
This absolutely blew my mind watching this today. Like I'd never even heard of it or anything like that. When I was watching it, I was engrossed. I was absolutely just like, and then the idea that, like, you know, as we're watching like live here, like the Pakistan bowlers just not even just being able to just hit the stumps free without anybody there was just like, I was like, how can you miss, kind of thing? How can you be at that elite level and miss? But they do. Like
there are worrying examples of Pakistani players inexplicably going to pieces in crucial moments in big games, but that feels like that's dangerous territory to kind of mention, Liam, isn't it? As well. Well, I heard enough conspiracy theories from Pakistan fans over the years about this as well. But it's the fact that it was in India, wasn't it? The first T20. This is all pre-IPL as well. This is, like you say, this is T20 cricket is a novelty, and it being quick, because you go to a game and it's over in 3 and a bit hours. Like it's
sounds good.
It's like deliberately like a sort of party atmosphere and everything else on there. But it's kind of the way that, you know, at the minute, you know, again at time of recording, there's another World Cup going on, even though that seems like it's so early in the competition that it's kind of hard to kind of be massively invested in it. This was, you know, T20 was seen as, it was always like the big hope of kind of expanding cricket to that wider audience and everything else. And you have to say, largely to a degree, it's kind of worked. Between all the formats seem to kind of gravitate between. I mean, I'll always be more of a test match fan. I'm assuming, Liam, you're very much in that camp as well. But T20 has kind of found its place necessarily, like at this stage. It's matured. It's, you know, if players, you elect to play on which circuit you want to play on. Effectively, you want to do the T20 circuit, that's fine. The older players do, because it's less physically taxing, and you know, you'll go off and play in the BPL in Bangladesh, or in, I'm trying to think of what the West Indian competition is. CPL.
Yeah.
As well, or the Big Bash in Australia, and you can just go around, and it's just like a kind of like a touring circus of sorts. But with the IPL, where all the big players are going to, like, so they'll get some amount of English players, but a lot of the time, you know, we view in this country test cricket is very much like the kind of be all and end all as well. But But yeah,
even before that bowl out there in that game, the drama coming to the end there, where they had like a certain number of balls left, and then they had like to get a certain. I was fucking like, I was pure invested when I was watching that. I was because I had no idea what was going to happen at all, and
thank God, just Ben Olet now.
Where you've got the two things there, of like the number of runs needed, but you know that the number of overs is like reducing, like. That's just great drama. That it's like a different sport in time. It's like you're against the clock almost in towards the end of a game in footy or rugby league or something like that. Like it was this, or like anything, I suppose, where the clock's ticking and you're trying to like get something done within a certain time. It was just putting that kind of like jeopardy like involved at the end. I proper loved that. And then it was pretty similar in the final as well, wasn't it? Because you put the link into the highlights for the final, and like I'd watched that like immediately after, and that was one where it looked like again the run rate versus the number of overs. I was like, oh, this is fuck. They've romped it here. But then even that like came in, and even though there wasn't many wickets left, it still went down to a relatively low number of overs as well. Like I was watching this thinking I should have been there. Fucking 2007 World Cup. I'd have been filling my boots on this one.
Well, I know Matty's a big fan of story here, but after that bowl out between India and Pakistan to decide the group stages, it ended with them both qualifying into different brackets of the knockout stages, only for them to meet in the final one more time to decide the World Cup. And
that's brilliant, though, isn't it? I love
Two
that.
massive rivals, mate. This is
proper booking.
Yeah.
The biggest rivalry in world sport, heading up the final of the first inaugural tournament. Just saying. A cynic would say otherwise, but not me.
No.
I'm
looking at the totals as well. I'm just thinking 141 like would not be cutting the mustard these days. Like the game.
No. I mean, people see T20 as like the final evolution of limited overs cricket on a world stage, but there's been evolution within T20 in terms of run rates, scores,
the role of the spinner.
Competitive totals, the pinch hitter. There's been massive evolution within T20 over the years since this. But just to close this off, India won the final and were the first inaugural T20 world champions.
Love that.
The way it kind of should be, really, because it is like, I know effectively it is an English cricket invention, isn't it? But India is where the global cricket market is, so the IPL is where you're going to be getting the monster TV ratings. Is where it's going to be the massive deal. And I was born a Rajasthan Royals man, and I'll die one.
What can I say, JP? Are we time stamping this just so Benno can skip that entire section?
And the rugby as well, actually. Well, we're on.
But I think it would be remiss of me not to start with JP on the next one, as the Premier League in September 2007 was in full flow. Arsenal were the form team all month, with Arsene Wenger winning Manager of the Month and Cesc Fabregas winning Player of the Month that year. Other things going on within the Premier League, and I think it would be wrong not to start with the 20th of September, where Jose Mourinho leaves Chelsea by mutual consent and is replaced by Avram Grant. Now, in my limited love of football, I remember this being massive news. Does anybody have any memories of hearing this and surprise or shock, or were you expecting it to happen, Matty?
I mean, when you look at it from the 2 seasons prior, so even the 3rd season he was there, everyone forgets that 06-07 season where he won the domestic double, didn't he? The League Cup and the FA Cup first final at Wembley. So when you just look at it from that side of it, it's a massive shock that they come in, won 2 leagues, you know what I mean? Obviously didn't get past us in the semi-finals, 2 years in the Champions League and stuff like that. But yeah, as you say, it was just a massive. He come in I've always been a Mourinho guy. There's no, I can't deny. I've always loved him, and people say he's finished now, and his style's not suited for the game. But I'm glad he's still managing at a pretty decent level, because the game, he come in and he tore the Prem up for me. You had the Invincibles, JP. Sorry to say, you had the Invincibles, and you had Fergie, and Fergie didn't want nothing to do with Mourinho, let's be honest. He was the only one that put a bit of fear in Fergie. And to be fair to Fergie, he did come back and win 3 leagues in a row and built another team, because you can't deny what Fergie done. But yeah, it was a big deal, Liam. It was a really big deal at the time. And to replace him with Avram Grant as well, it's not as if they had someone massive lined up. It come as obviously fell out with Abramovich and stuff like that, wasn't it? And all going on behind the scenes, but yeah, wild time.
So, Gareth, did you see this as a rash decision at the time, or do you think it was just?
It was one of those that it just felt like it came. I remember it at the time, thinking, God, this is early. This is quick in the season to be doing this. It just felt bizarre, but it was almost as that the character of Mourinho was just evolving more and more as he does everywhere he goes. Eventually he just becomes too much, doesn't he, kind of thing. And when stuff's not exactly going his way, then clearly he's just creating issues behind the scenes. I think Matty says so. I think the big thing was it being Avram Grant to replace him. It just felt bizarre that you're going from the guy who's the guy kind of thing, the top manager or top 3 manager sort of thing at the time, to just this fucking no mark that's just who the fuck's this guy kind of thing, and he's just suddenly got the top job at Chelsea, where you'd have thought pretty much any manager in Europe would have probably wanted that gig at that time, or the majority of top managers in Europe. So just weird that he got it, but they got to the Champions League final this year, didn't they?
Gareth, I was going to say, there's no chance it was him delivering. Apparently, it was Drogba and Lampard delivering team talks, because the story at the time was when he was delivering his team talks, the players were just playing cards. They weren't even listening to him. They were just literally playing fucking cards. It was like Terry and that managing their own dressing room there. Grant had nothing to do. And, not disrespecting him, because, he did manage other teams after Chelsea. The West Ham was it he turned up at, and a few other teams, but it was definitely the players got them the final.
Yeah, but just bizarre at times. But you can't. I mean, while I hated Mourinho at the time, he's one of those that you just retrospectively look back on, and you just what an injection of character at that time.
Changed the game, Gary. Really did.
Just hate his style of football, hate him as a person, and things like that. But just for a star quality, he didn't have to bring someone to footballer.
He hated Wenger, JP, didn't he? He hated Wenger. They had a bit of beef, didn't he? Yeah. Did you hate Mourinho, JP? Didn't you like him?
Absolutely fucking hate him. I hated Chelsea. we were going to be the dominant side in England, and then this billionaire turned up, went for all of our transfer targets, like Michael Essien and Cech and Didier Drogba, and just added a few more million, and we couldn't compete. And we were also at this point in time, I say it's from the Arsenal perspective, it was we'd moved to the Emirates the season before, and in order for that price to happen, we had to dramatically lower the wage bill, which meant all of the kind of invincibles were being completely dismantled. Henry had left just before the season. Yeah. And in fact, the reason why we started off really well, if I remember rightly, we didn't lose a game until Sevilla in the Champions League, and that was in late November. And we were as you said already, Liam, manager of the month, player of the month. We were in really good form as well. It was but this is the season for me where Eduardo breaks his legs against Martin Taylor breaks his leg, and somehow it's Eduardo's fault for being a coward. Rather similar to Ryan Shawcross and Aaron Ramsay. Stuff that to this day I'm still incredibly bitter about.
This Gallas on the pitch, JP, won't get off the pitch. Gallas.
Yeah.
Sitting there on the pitch and all that, yeah.
Well, in fairness, this fucking clogger had broken this bloke's leg and his career had never been the same. And it was just going, get up, you fucking coward. Was what you were hearing from people about it effectively. Oh, it's Arsenal, they're soft. They don't like it when it up them. And it's I don't think they like their mates' legs being broken and people just going, meh, whatever. It was one of these things where, and it was the beginning of us falling apart, finishing fourth. Which I have to say, realistically, at that point in time, I kind of expected it. I thought we were going to go on the downturn for this. This is the season we brought in Bakary Sagna. Adebayor had a great season. This is his...
that goal against Tottenham, mate. Honestly, I've got that down in my notes now. That first touch, seriously, is unreal. Just the finesse, but to flick it up. in like, on the edge of the box, just how perfect is that volley.
He
It's one
tried.
of the best goals. It's fucking unbelievable, mate.
Yeah. I mean, he
That
scored.
Fabregas goal's a belter in that one as well.
Yeah.
Like fucking.
Yeah.
You were
Oh,
topping like April though, JP, weren't you? See, because remember Chelsea
And we
playing
went-
Man U later on the Ballack scored 2 headers to beat Man United, didn't he? But yous were still, it all fell apart because yous were like should have won this league this season, headed them too.
Birmingham killed it, basically. Birmingham completely killed it at that point in time, you know. Won 5-0, as here shown on Match of the Day 2. And Derby, I have to say, one of the worst Premier League sides. I mean, I don't know if they were the worst. I mean, people talk about the Sunderland team. I remember this Derby
They are
side.
points wise, JP. They are the worst team, aren't they?
Did
Yeah,
you
it was
did you
shocking.
did you
15
did you
points.
did you say you went to this game, JP? This Derby game?
No, I didn't go to. Was I at this game? I think I might well have been at this game. No, I was at a different Derby game for this. There was the 6-2 that we had lost. There was a different, it was a different Derby game for this one. They were the worst side. I'm getting confused now with this. I remember beating them 6-2 and then winning 2-1 at one point and being fucking livid. Like throughout this, sitting at home, fucking fuming, thinking this is the height of embarrassment to have this Derby side getting anything past you because they were just fucking abysmal. Like, and you don't see it as much in the Premier League anymore. Like sides that are really, really bad. In the main, they kind of battle, don't they? You know, as much as anything else. They
beat
kind
Derby
of
6-0 this season as well, JP.
Yeah, and I was at that
6-0.
game. I was still going to match
Shit.
back then. Like they were fucking awful, absolutely awful.
They were just a very, very, very bad side that shouldn't have been. And people will speak about Luton Town this year. It's like Luton are giving
They'll
it a
get
go.
more points than Derby. They'll get
They'll
more
get
points.
more points than Derby. They get more points than Sunderland as well. They were like, you still had sides that effectively came up and rolled over and died. That's kind of what you ended up with here. But yeah, in the league, Man U end up winning rather depressingly. That
Win the double, Man U, don't they?
They do.
That's always one that gets blanked. I always say that league and Champions League got glossed over.
Issue with that being
No, I know. I'm all right. Say, you know, it does. It always got blanked. That one at that time as well. Massive achievement, massive because you'd be getting like I know Pep under Trello, but you'd be getting programs made by you for years on end. Now have you done that again? Just them two.
Poor points tally for the champions though. Less than 90.
Yeah, of course. The level's been raised now, Gareth.
There is one, I suppose, you know, at this point in time, I'd also think as well, you've got just to bring it on up as a clip on here, the Portsmouth Reading game, which I can remember Match of the Day that night, 7-4 this one, and Match of the Day that night, like being famous for Chris Kamara being at the game
purely though.
Saturday for that one. But then on Match of the Day, there was other big games on, loads of goals involving teams at the top of the table. It was like, and the first game we're showing is actually Portsmouth versus Reading. So you just, if you went through that period of not knowing the score at all, you'd have thought, what the fuck happened here? And this guy was a riot.
This finish from Dave Kitson here.
I would say that in any season, though. What David James
Played
is
for
doing.
Oxford, Dave Kitson.
What a goal!
Secret footballer, apparently, isn't he? It's always rumoured to be him.
Yeah. This is
Ben
all
Johnny up front.
all Redknapp's best though. Heridus and Crankier, where he brings his old mates
Ben
in
Jarney,
everywhere he goes.
everyone, yeah. I love Ben Jarney. I know he gets a bit of stick. I fucking love him.
They spent all that money, and then eventually it was the thing that ended up breaking the fucking club, as with most Harry Redknapp projects at some point, isn't it? Funny
Didn't
that.
Ben Jarney go to City? Obviously, Redknapp tells that story where he literally had to beg him to go because they would get like 10 mil for him or something, weren't they? But I always remember he scored at Old Trafford though in a win. I'm sure he did for City. I made up for him there, like because he got some stick. I like him.
I remember his finishing was 10 on Footy Manager out of 20. Ben Jarney.
That's not what you want if you're main man in the Premier League, is it? You're gonna be struggling all year with that.
What a volley that is! That was by James
Harper, ex-Arsenal youth. You'd see that a lot. Sort of, you know, oh, that bloke played for us, and then he's gone away. There he was. Chris Kamara, fucking loving it. He was.
What a pen! Utaka, is that Montari? They had a good team, Pompey, though. They had a fucking good team. Utaka, Montari. Then they got after Ben Jarney, but didn't they get Defoe and Crouching?
Yeah.
And then David James, and they had Campbell. Sol Campbell played for them as well, didn't he? Canu. They had a fucking good side.
Crazy
But,
game.
going back to the Arsenal then, JP, what were your views at Adebayor this season? Because he scored 2 hat-tricks, if I'm correct.
Yep.
He come over. Was he the replacement for Henry at this point?
Yep. So he had so he joined actually in the January transfer window beforehand from Monaco, and he scored a few goals. That season, he was like the target man. Now, he was different, obviously, to Thierry Henry. There wasn't anyone going to be exactly like him. But what he was as a kind of that focal point of the attack. He just did the job, and he ran because he was trying. And then all of a sudden, Man City got interested at the end of the season, and he went, right, I'm off, bye-bye. And he was just, that was it. That was him gone. He didn't give a shit. That was when he would he signed a new contract. He worked his arse off, signed a new contract. This sounds familiar to a lot of people who are aware of the career of Emmanuel Adebayor. Gets it, and then goes, right, I'm downing tools. I'm doing nothing. And I say about Rouge, it's very much more Shinsuke Nakamura, if you're kind of thinking in wrestler terms as well. Fuck it, I'm not working anymore. He was proper lazy. God bless him.
JP, 200 grand a week at City, before it became fashionable, when he signed 200 grand a week, mate.
I know.
Back then.
That's what they did. That was their policy. Buy our players.
Yeah.
Chelsea's at least was buy our transfer.
Sanya, Clichy, Nasri, Adebayor, loads, didn't he?
So Adebayor scored 30 goals that season for Arsenal.
Yep.
Can you name the other 4 Arsenal players that make up the top 5 of goal scorers?
That season?
In no order. Yes.
Oh, my God. I'm trying to think of who is still in that team, because Lundberg's gone. Henry's gone. Eduardo?
Yes, Eduardo. Yep. A player that went to Manchester United in 2012.
Oh, Robin van Persie.
Yep. A player that went to Barcelona in 2011.
I was going to say him.
Sounds unerringly familiar here. 2011. Fucking hell. Oh, I can't think. No, Cesc. Oh, for fuck's sake.
And rounding off the list with 9 goals that season was Nicholas Bentner.
At that point in time, mate, I thought he was going to be really fucking good. I got that wrong.
I think
he did with all of that youth intake at that point in time.
Was he ever good, Jamie? Can I ask
Theo Walcott? Was he in that list?
No, it was Adebayor, Fabregas, Eduardo, Van Persie, and Bentner. Those were the top 5.
Can I ask a question about an Arsenal player? He was only there a couple of seasons. Was he ever any good to Nielsen in centre mid? Was he ever no good at all?
He was shit. Absolute shit. He makes me fucking physically angry if you talk about him. A lazy sack of shit. That bloke.
Okay.
Never fucking ran.
Sorry, Aston.
Never ran. He didn't get even called up for Brazil. And every cunt got called up for Brazil. And he never fucking got called up. Good reason. Bollocks. There's a clip of Wayne Rooney where even the referee and Wayne Rooney out sprints Denilson. This is in tracking back as well. Just shit. He offered nothing, that bloke. Cunt. That's the word I use.
Now I'm glad I asked.
Right. So moving on swiftly. The 22nd of September, moving on to more fight-based sports, was UFC 76, subtitled Knockout, as they wanted to do back in the day. Matty, can you tell me something out of order about the title, UFC 76, Knockout?
Out of order?
Yeah, there wasn't a knockout on the whole card.
And they must have sat up all night thinking of that name as well, Liam. A big rumour, like people decided on that name.
But yeah, this was back when people used to watch the UFC. Gareth, was this
IWC UFC? This mate.
Stars UFC. This.
I would say this is more the Michael Bay UFC. This is, isn't it? Stars everywhere, explosions, knockouts, fireworks, the lot. Gareth, so am I right in thinking this is when you had a passing interest in the UFC and were watching it regular?
Yeah, this is probably like a 4-year period where I was like heavily into it, watching absolutely everything under the sun, watching all like the magazine programs, buying magazines, MMA magazines and everything. Like there was just that run around this time that I was just like watching more of this than I was watching wrestling at that time.
Let me
Probably
down, Mark.
it was one of those where it was just better in terms of the way that it was produced, the little sort of like videos, the way they got you to be invested in the fighters, even if it was a new guy that you didn't know and stuff like that. The little 1 minute video that just give you a bit of backstory or things like that on it was all just so much better produced. But I just think as a sport, it was just more exciting and more enjoyable. I think because it was still, despite it being up to like UFC 76 at this point, obviously it was still like massively in its infancy. The volume of fighters was much smaller, you know, coming off the back of, you know, the Pride takeover and things like that. You just start to see like the UFC roster get boosted at this time. But just stylistically as well, I think this was like one of those where, you know, you were genuinely in that territory where, you know, people would have the old styles make fights cliches, and you'd have a wrestler against a boxer, or you'd have like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy against a wrestler or something like that. And it was just like nobody was as well-rounded, whereas like everyone, it feels like these days, is a 7 out of 10 in absolutely everything. Like here you'd have somebody who had like knockout power versus somebody who had absolutely no fucking like stand-up defense, or you'd have somebody who was like 10 out of 10 for jiu-jitsu up against a guy who couldn't grapple for shit and stuff like that. So you just, the dynamic of the fights just felt like they were a bit more spontaneous. Anything could happen pretty much at any time. But as you say, Liam, this card itself is one that, you know, every fight goes a distance on the main card, doesn't it? It all, you know, pretty much, you know, with 15 seconds off it with the Forrest Griffin Shogun who were fighting. But this is one that I just feel like for stars of the time, like when I put this on and you were like, you looked at the names on the list of it being like Chuck Liddell, Shogun, who Forrest Griffin, you know, Diego Sanchez, who's like one of my all-time favorites. Lyoto Machida been on there, and even just guys who felt like a bit more like star quality at this time, just because you saw them a lot. It was people just like a John Fitch or a Tyson Griffin, or, you know, even on the undercard, like someone on the up here, like a Anthony Johnson and things like that. It felt like you were more familiar with these people because it was this smaller pool, and they were fighting what seemed like more regularly. So you almost felt like you were following the journey of a lot of different people. You know, one show to the next at this time, and it's just proper glory days. Just like
there's the guy Vince wanted so much, isn't it? Mike Goldberg.
Yeah. Oh, Mike
Offered him
Goldberg.
like a big contract, didn't he? And he turned it down.
Yeah.
I tell you what, when you see Rogan's definitely off the Steads here at this point. He's a right skinny bloke at this point. It's like
small bloke at this stage.
Well, yeah, going back to what Gareth was saying about the UFC, not to take too long on it, but it's a very oversaturated product at the moment. I remember this period of UFC was one of its busiest periods, but it was still a pay-per-view every 6 to 8 weeks. So when a pay-per-view did come around, it felt like an event that you would go out your way to watch. Whereas now you have a UFC event every week. People don't necessarily know who's going to fight who next. The ranking systems is a bit skewed in terms of the fighters who make the most money, like in boxing, seem to jump over a lot of deserving contenders who should be deserving of a title fight. But Matty, I know you're a big fan of Stars with a Z.
Yeah.
Would you say this is the pinnacle of UFC in terms of crossover towards somebody like yourself who never really had a massive interest in it, but in terms of recognizable names and people you would know, would you say this is the period you're most familiar with?
Yeah, it's even like everything. Chuck Liddell's in the Nickelback Rockstar video, isn't he? You've got Couture. Is he on commentary on this? Am I right, Liam? Yeah, and then you've got Anderson Silva in the front row, what they're building up for the Chuck Liddell fight, which obviously doesn't go. I don't know if that still happens with the result of the main event, but yeah, this is like proper, like big guns, like stars, and this is slap bang in the middle, boys, of that Affliction t-shirt era, isn't it? I mean, like those, I had about 2 of them, really big UFC fans, and like all the like Triple H and Randy Orton t-shirts at the time were all modelled on like the Affliction style of the UFC. Just big guns, Liam, like, and is what it is. And even I watched all this main event. I had a great time watching it, to be fair. Like, Rogan is great on commentary. I don't know if he's regarded as a good commentator. I think he's fucking brilliant on commentary. Like,
JP, any thoughts of UFC this time?
at this point in time, like it's, you know what? When I was watching this, because I was like, it was more or less like I'd have to. Sir Paul would have been my entry into a lot of this stuff at this stage in terms of torrenting bloody relentless amounts of UFC. It does feel like, because I like Pride, the Pride Fighting Championship. I love the kind of idea, and it's almost like what they did at this stage is they've got the Ultimate Fighter established. They've gotten over the kind of financial problems. They're able to run in Vegas, so they're not like kind of having to fucking do shows in Alabama and the rest of it. It's like they're a big kind of event, and they kind of do the invasion angle well with the Pride lads. If they'd done it better, they would have set up Pride in Japan, had that as an entity, and then run WrestleMania. You'd have booked this like kind of wrestling, wouldn't you? And done these big one-on-one things. But it's the level of stars who are coming in, and you can see it here. The video viewers, you can see how many people are coming from Pride. Why? Because you can see the ring. So your Shogun Huas, Lyoto Machida, Quinton Rampage Jackson's in the
Rampage
row.
as well.
Wanderlei Silva is there as well, and it is like this is the real rise. John Fitch, I always think, if I'm right in thinking, he's the guy because effectively he'll just wrestle you and grapple you to death.
Yeah,
lay and pray.
Yeah.
I was going to say Gareth will love him then.
No, never a John Fitch guy. Me and Dana White were on the same page with that one. He was.
You're an armbar guy though, Gareth. For me, UFC, I just want someone who's coming over and giving you spinning elbows and spinning back kicks and everything.
Damien Mayer for me, like taking the back and just slowly working a submission,
breaking you down.
Lovely stuff. Oh, my boy, I'll give him a reference. Husamar Palhares, is just a few like knee bars, leg bars there. Definitely.
I would say here, like Forrest Griffin versus Shogun Hua is a cracking fight on here as well. Like it's proper like all action UFC, the kind of reminding you of like that final of the Ultimate Fighter, basically, where Forrest Griffin just goes out and fucking swings for the fences and everything else. But it's like a point in time where they're really on the come up. They're not the monolith they are now as part of TKO and everything else, where they're just like they're a money-making machine and they're incredibly well produced, but it's very lifeless and sterile for me.
Yeah,
like I miss pay-per-views all the time. I don't worry about it.
Well, just to give this some context, in March of 2007, the UFC or Zuffa at the time did buy Pride. So what you can see with this card is the amalgamation of the Pride talent coming over to the UFC. It does go some way to spoil some of their plans, though, because a couple of the big fights that they wanted to make was Wanderlei Silva versus Chuck Liddell. They wanted that as a massive New Year's Eve fight in Vegas. Chuck Liddell lost to Keith Jardine in the main event of this card. So that
the Dean of Mean. That's one of the great nicknames of all time. That
once met Keith Jardine in a Foot Locker in Birmingham.
Love that.
Actual true story. And Shogun Hua, who at the time was one of the most regarded coming over from Pride to enter the division, and he lost to Forrest Griffin. So two of the bigger fights they wanted to make after the purchase of Pride was scuppered because of the results on this card. Chuck Liddell, this could be probably pointed to the downswing of Chuck Liddell's career from this point onwards. He never really maintained his win streak or his star quality at the top of the card at this point. After this, he would get knocked out a few times. Knocked out by Rich Franklin, I think he was. Rashad Evans with a knockout that I think everybody
Brock do him as well, Liam?
No, Brock was heavyweight while he was light heavyweight.
It felt like the Undertaker to me, where he just kept rolling Chuck out, and it was like, don't roll him out anymore. Don't roll him out anymore. He's like he's gonna get hurt, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, and you felt like you were protective.
Not that long ago since his last match, and that was bad. That was terrifying to see.
But as Matty says, a massive star back then. Chuck Liddell was. He was the kind of him and Tito Ortiz were the two guys that you would recognise even if you didn't have a passing interest in UFC. Also, just a reference with this in terms of popularity of the UFC, this was a weird time for UFC in this country because Sky did play around with it for a while in terms of coverage, but never really fully committed. These events, up until I think 2 after, were on Bravo on a 24-hour delay that would air on a Sunday night. on Bravo before they would ultimately go to Setanta, and then they would become that rights package that everything that replaced Setanta would get. So ESPN afterwards had it, BT had it, TNT Sports had it. Sky never got UFC, but it was very well exposed in this country at that point, because it was at the time prime time on Bravo, which was a channel that was not part of a premium package like a sports channel. And as Matty said, you know, Affliction t-shirts were crossing over into the mainstream. The event after this is the event that they announced Brock Lesnar is coming into the UFC. So that was a massive announcement, which made wrestling fans at the time who never watched UFC look at UFC to see what was going on. But yeah, for me, this is part of the pinnacle years of the UFC where everything felt like an event and everything felt essential to watch. Whereas I don't think that is very much the case now with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think once it got merged as well, and the lighter weight divisions came in, and suddenly you had like, you know, you had 8, 9 kind of like divisions that you had to like pay attention to, and then all of those divisions then got deeper and deeper. Suddenly you're having to like pay attention to like what felt like 4 times as many guys or 5 times as many guys, and then events happening every week. It's just like, this is too much. It was like, it was just like, I can't keep on top of this. Like I'm not on this. I'm not on the journey with these guys. Like you know, there was people you'd maybe see their first fight that they would have on a preliminary card, and they get a good win, a good knockout or something. You're like, I'll remember him next time. And then you see his name again, and then you watch his fight, and you sort of like, you know, now it's just like fucking just so many names and nobody sticks kind of thing, really. So it feels so different.
Yeah, I think a combination of too many fighters, the addition of weight classes, and something that I don't think can be underestimated, fight kits. I think the personality of fighters was so much to do with what they wore in the octagon or what they wore to the octagon. Everybody knows BJ Penn shorts with the black belt, Chuck Liddell's ice shorts, Tito Ortiz's shorts with the flames on. Everybody, you know, they're iconic images for the fighters. And when they signed that contract with Reebok, where every fighter pretty much wore a alteration on a design, it kind of just took any sort of personality away from the fighters. That you could be flicking a channel, and once upon a time, if you saw Chuck Liddell shorts, you would know that was Chuck Liddell. Whereas now, it's fighters are interchangeable. As bad as that sounds, that the product itself is just so saturated that it's a content provider more so than an event provider.
Yeah, shout that.
And Diego Sanchez doing his yes chants, Matty, that Daniel Bryan stole.
Okay. Any knock on Brian? Happy with me, Gareth?
So yeah, finally closing off the month, keeping in the fight sport realm, was the world middleweight title fight between Kelly Pavlik and Jermaine Taylor. Now, I'll just speak on this first. This was big at the time. I remember going back to my nights in nightclubs on Saturday, rushing home to watch this because it was such an event. It was back in the days of HBO boxing, which is the pinnacle of boxing coverage. If anybody who's watched this can probably attest to. The 2 middleweights in the world at this moment, the 2 best middleweights in the world, contrasting styles. Jermaine Taylor had come off beating Bernard Hopkins twice and beaten his 20 defense middleweight title defense reign. Fought him in a rematch and beat him in that as well. Jermaine Taylor was being groomed as the next star of American boxing, but after beating Bernard Hopkins, put in a couple of lackadaisical performances. Kelly Pavlik was from Youngstown, Ohio, working class area of America, where he was knocking out everybody he was facing, and very, very basic a fighter, but what he did was good. These 2 built up to fight each other. It was a big event for the middleweight title of the world. It was a great fight. I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but anybody watch this or watch the highlights of this?
I'm going to spoil it, Liam.
Yeah, no, carry on.
Yeah, I fucking like this is the era again. Shout out to me mate Joey once again, who's like the greatest boxing family, and you get on great with him. He's like he lives for boxing and golf, but there is two sports he knows inside out. But boxing is like he lives for it, Liam. Like, and
two natural bedfellows.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this is the time, like you're saying there, where like these were all on Sky Sports 1, weren't they, Liam? There were no pay-per-views for these fights, so I'd watch these with Joey. Like we just sit in his all night playing on like Pro Evo and waiting for these fights to come on. And like I remember these names when you put this down. I was like fucking taking me right back to that era. Jermaine Taylor, like, and remember them Bernard Hopkins fights. But this for me was like, I remember Kelly Pavlik as well. But as you say, he was very like, I don't know. He just, I couldn't believe when he won this because I can't remember who won it. And when he nails him, doesn't he, in the 7th, Liam, he absolutely pummels him like. But the first three rounds of this fight are just, they come out the blocks. None of this like you see in most fights where like hugging early or like feel each other out and throw no punches. These two come out for the first 3 rounds and fucking start throwing bombs at each other. And then it calms down a little bit. And then it comes back up in like the 7th round where he stops him. But I fucking loved this fight. Thought it was great stuff.
The fact he comes off, coming off the floor in the 2nd, isn't it? And he just gets knocked down, and it's just like Matty. I watched the highlights of this and saw into the 7th, and the crowd are going fucking batshit.
Yeah.
Well, like that they've seen an absolute cracker of a fight here as well, and it, like you say, it's because it's got the. I'm a sucker for HBO. What can I say? So you see HBO around the place, and naturally, I'm much more kind of like intrigued by it. But yeah, I would have missed this at the time. I was always like aware of Jermaine Taylor. I don't know as much as boxing as you lads, but it would like going to see this sort of not knowing really too much about like Kelly Pavlik. Fucking cracking, absolute belter of a fight. This one, get a chance to see it. It's just like, and it's got the proper contrast, isn't it? It's got your kind of your smooth, slick champion versus your kind of gritty
warrior,
working class like warrior who takes that punch and keeps on coming. And it's a cracking fight.
Even in them low rounds, Liam, isn't it? And boys, like even in them like quieter rounds per se, there's still no running away. It's a proper fight still. There's none of this like backing off. There's like they're coming in tight, and and the ref. I thought the ref was good in this as well. I thought he let it go.
Smoker,
yeah, and he breaks it up when necessary. None of this like over the top. He just lets them like even when they're clenching for ages, and he's not breaking it up, which was good to see as well. So got to give props to the ref there. And yeah, the fans, them first 3 rounds especially, boys. Once again, I use it again. Like Stone Cold walked out, they're fucking all just like jumping out of the skins. Like it's fucking brilliant.
I love, like, I watched all this fight, and like Liam's going to knock me out now himself because I'd literally never heard of either of these guys. No idea who they are at all. Never heard the name. Like the names just didn't resonate or anything with me, and so I was just like throwing this on, and I was just absolutely just captivated for the full fight. Like just all that with the 2nd round, just like getting off the deck, and then just like the fucking staying power, just like because his legs are as wobbly as fuck, aren't they? Like when Taylor's trying to finish him after that knockdown, but he just stays and then just fucking regroups, and then just watching kind of and just evolve and start to take control. And you're just like, fucking hell, how hard is he? Like kind of thing when you're watching it and just see that come back, and like when he gets the win like that. At the end there, that fucking combo that he hits him with, the proper rocks him into the corner, who just like fucking like get on that. Like I proper felt like after I'd watched this, oh god, I really missed out not watching.
This was a good era, wasn't it, Liam, for boxing? This era of boxing. Very good era. Winky Wright and Hopkins and all that. Della is still going, isn't he? Mayweather's on like he's not money Mayweather yet, is he? But he's like on the up kind of thing.
Pacquiao was on the rise up, and even coming to the UK. I mean, Hatton was fighting, Calzaghe was fighting, so you had your fighters that were world level that you wanted to see go over to America and fight. But yeah, with this basic story of the fight, first 2 rounds, Jermaine Taylor looked like the old Jermaine Taylor, the guy who beat Bernard Hopkins, knocked down Pavlik. Pavlik got up, made it to the end of the round. And then I think something something set off in Kelly Pavlik when he realised I'm going to have to throw with him, because up until that point it was Jermaine Taylor behind a jab, bamboozling Pavlik and freezing him almost. And Pavlik realised he had to punch with him. And then I think slowly Pavlik got back into the fight, wearing down Taylor. And I think Taylor may have took a bit out of himself trying to look for the finish in that second round. And then the finish from Pavlik is great. I mean, the ebb and flow of this fight is incredible. It was voted Fight of the Year by many boxing writers at that year. Just to talk a bit about the arena, Pavlik took 6,000 people from Youngstown, Ohio with him in the crowd for this. So half of the arena was his support.
Wow.
This is Atlantic City. This is the site of WrestleMania 4 and 5.
I recognise that ceiling.
Trump Plaza, isn't it?
Yeah, as the Trump Plaza, Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. This was, after this fight, this is probably Kelly Pavlik's greatest moment. After this fight, they fought again in a rematch. There was a rematch clause where Jermaine Taylor could, or whoever lost the fight could, trigger a rematch clause where they would have a non-title fight. They fought non-title, which Pavlik won on a unanimous decision, so he won both fights. He then moved up in weight to a catch weight to fight Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins absolutely schooled him, with everything pointing towards Pavlik being too high up in weights at the time. This was Hopkins at the point he was about 40. Oh, I want to say about
mid-40s, isn't he?
About 45, 46
definitely.
at this point. Neither guy really got to this height again. Jermaine Taylor then carried on with his career. He got knocked out by Carl Froch in a fight he was winning in the last round of a fight, and then he got knocked.
Last 10 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah, literally last 10 seconds of the fight, he got knocked out. Then he got knocked out by Arthur Abraham. Kelly Pavlik stuck around for a bit. He got injured and he had problems outside the ring. He was supposed to fight Andre Ward at some point, but an injury to Andre Ward stopped that fight from ever going to head. He retired, I think, in 2011. So when Gareth says he wasn't aware of either of these guys, it's not surprising, as their time at the top of the sport was very, very small in the grand scheme of a boxing champion. Yeah, just this fight in a nutshell of its time, what it represented, the two best middleweights at that point fighting each other, the fighter who's been written off as his best days may have been behind him after the Hopkins fight, versus a guy who was this basic fighter that people expected to be outboxed, but coming from behind to get the knockout. With it was heart. It was heart more than anything that saw him through the fight. It was just for this time, with that HBO logo on the screen, with the build-up show. It's just very much, this is what boxing was at this period of time.
Can I mention Lennox Lewis on comms as well? Because I love that. Whenever you get a proper legend of the sport on commentary, I'm all for that. And I think, I don't know if I asked you this last time, Liam. Like, for me, maybe a few years ago, Lennox gets blanked for me in, like, you know, best. I know he's not the greatest of all time, but he should be in that, like, you know, conversation where I think now people are you hear him get mentioned a little bit more. What's your take on Lennox like?
To sum it up very succinctly, I would say that Lennox Lewis has a much better resume than Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, or Alexander Usyk. I think Lennox Lewis is probably, well, last 25 years, I'd say he's probably the greatest heavyweight out there.
Yeah, you never hear him. He's beat everyone he's fought. That's the shout at Liam. Whoever he's been in there, he's beat them. He might have lost, but he's always won in the rematch, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's it.
That's the shout. He's beat everyone he's ever fought. I love that. And undisputed champion as well, weren't he? So it's like, you know, was he? He was undisputed, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I always think this coming from it very briefly with Lennox Lewis, the fact that he represented Britain, but he was Canadian, and there was always that sort of snobbery. You saw it with Greg Grzedsky on a tennis level, didn't you? And I always thought that same thing carried over, where there was an element of they never really sort of took to him necessarily in this country. Davey Boy Smith tried his best. I
was going to say, he's not Canadian at SummerSlam 92, is he?
Now, that would have been an angle if he turned heel on Davey Boy Smith, as Bret Hart could have won at Wembley. I'd have been fucking all over that. That would have been incredible. Incredible stuff.
But always, last one on Lewis, though. Do you remember, was it the Rahman fight, Liam, where that scrap on the TV show and he destroyed the set? Pro wrestling, Gareth, it's just unbelievable stuff. Like, I'm going to dig that out after this. I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, I think that's it for the sport. So it's now time for the television round. And
It is indeed.
here I am passing over to JP. Television for September 2007.
And it's a wacky collection on this as well. I have to say, my soap knowledge when it came round to it, we get round to that bit, was just like, I don't know what's going on here. This is crazy. Phil Daniels is in it. But first of all, we're going to start off with, I'm not sure if this is the beginning of it. Is this the first kind of iteration of Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
I think so.
You know what I didn't like straight off the bat? Sorry, JP. I didn't like the format they changed. I prefer the old 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. I don't like this go to 25 and 50 grand.
I don't like it. They're giving money away here as well, I might add. I'm not a fan of the format. I'm not a fan of people playing for charity. There's no fucking stakes, is there, really? People
I should tell by the Vines. No, the Vines aren't asked about the stakes. They just go, all right.
I expected better from them.
I didn't know they were brothers. I had no idea they were brothers.
Yeah,
exactly the same, Gareth. When I saw these two and they were announced as brothers together, I was like, "What?" I did not know this at all.
I thought they were joking. I had to go and Google it just to like see if it was a gag or something like that. Yeah. But like, it blew my mind.
No one else get pissed off though because it's for charity. They kind of dismiss the last lifeline. Tim Vine's like, "Oh, we'll save it for later on." I don't know why I'm impassioned by it. But it's like it's for charity. Fucking get to the next question and then do it. You know what I mean? Like, build your money up. I was screaming at the fucking telly, hating it.
Spoiler alert for video viewers, they fucked this particular question by going, and I thought it was Donald as well. I was thinking, what's an old man's name from 1950? You know, from a fellow who was president in the 1950s. So assuming he's born in the late 1880s, and it's not Donald, it's David is his middle name, so that's what the D in Dwight D. Eisenhower, which I thought these two underperformed. I mean, if you're being outshone by Rick Parfitt and Francis
too
Rossi,
casual
status quo, they're
do you know
very
what,
casual.
I was captivated by this program. Honestly, I haven't watched Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in fucking years.
It was gold at the time.
I was watching this. I was absolutely just like, for the whole thing, I was just like, I didn't miss a second. I didn't fast forward at any point or anything like that. Proper enjoyed it. It was.
Do you remember, boys, when it first come out? I've said this on a previous episode or on Spotlight or something. Like, this was so big when it come out, JP. Like, this was like every single night you had to watch this, and especially if it carried over to the next night. Yeah, you were like you were waiting all day for it. It was so
high
big.
Concept.
Yeah,
it was just a very high concept, and the fact that you weren't playing for $1 million on TV, were you? You weren't. You didn't have that in a show like it was $1 million. If you look at prizes these days, like 15 to 1, you got a dish.
Yeah,
you have to work like a motherfucker to win that. Like, and that's shocking. Really,
say it, JP. It's my favourite shout. That is the G1 of game shows, isn't it? I love that shout so much. It's so perfect.
G1 without the Wrestle Kingdom title shot, frankly. It's like, well done at the end of it.
Do you remember the PlayStation 1 game as well, Millionaire, where like even as a kid just playing that all day and night? Fucking honestly, it was so big.
I remember them releasing it near Christmas as the way of like this.
And the interactive DVDs, JP, they're not soft. They used to do all that near Christmas. Not soft.
Used to have all that stuff around Christmas on there as well. But I did think these two kind of underperformed necessarily, and it was really weird. I can remember my dad in his like going to visit him before he passed away. And he'd always be watching Challenge TV, and he'd always be watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And I'd forget that it wasn't present day. So there's questions from like 2008 and stuff, and I'm going like, what's going on? Why don't I know the answer to this? It's incredibly specific questions for like $4 grand or whatever. But he would watch that stuff, and like Gareth says, there's an incredible replay kind of value for it as well.
Best channel,
and a little bit of bants with Chris Tarrant there. But yeah, it was always a fun watch, wasn't it? At this point in time, I'm not sure necessarily. Like, has anybody else got anything they'd like to add regarding Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? There's no cheating that gets involved. I should point that out.
I'm just laughing. Sadly, I'm just laughing with Liam saying that he bumped into Keith Jardine. It was when you got your next two on here, and it was Rick Parfitt and Francis Rossi. I always remember bumping into Francis Rossi in a hotel in Blackpool as well. So there you go. We're keeping a little streak here of a little 2007 celebrity run-ins and that. That was about like 10 or something like that, you know. Like, so, but it was photo and autograph. What you want from the
My mum,
lead status quo
big
man in
fan.
those days?
My mum has always been a big Status Quo fan. I didn't have Liam's dad in my house. Like, kind of, that would have been weird. But like, in terms of musical influences and the rest of it, like I had my mum with Capital Gold and Status Quo being like stuff that she absolutely fucking loved on there as well.
You know, I'm always one for the Clobber Boys. I know we can mention Rossi's jacket in a minute. What do you reckon on Tarrant tie and shirt combo? It's awful.
Yeah, I noticed that last night when I was watching this. It's got like a red stripe down both sides, isn't it? It's like he's wearing. It looks like he's wearing braces when he his jacket moves. It's
awful.
It's really weird. Proper Erwin R. Shyster wear.
Look how bad it is, though.
I have to say as well, Rick Parfitt's brother-in-law, fucking useless. He just sits there. He asks if you're asking to repeat the question, and he's just like, nah, sorry, I don't know. It's like, well, I needn't have bothered having you included. I think his name's Bob. You're a disgrace.
Some blatant googling going on in the background there that they didn't have time to get to. I thought that was telltale signs there. Are you a fan of Tarrant? Anybody actually like Chris Tarrant?
I like Tarrant. Yeah, I think he's all right.
I'm not a massive Tarrant fan, but I'll put it this way: I haven't watched one episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire ever since he's.
I was just going to say, does anyone watch it now? Is it Clarkson? Last I seen,
yeah.
I haven't watched terrestrial TV in 5 years. Yeah, it's bad. Isn't it?
That's true. And
Tarrant, Man Oh Man. Do you ever remember Man Oh Man?
Hey,
I was a big.
I would say, I was a big fan of Clive James back in the day, like taking the piss out of Japanese game shows. And Chris Tarrant took up that mantle with surprising ease with Tarrant on TV as well, and the wacky stuff he'd have before you get to a serious kind of car crash ad from Australia where you go, oh Christ, that's horrible. Like, they just throw that into the mix as well. And did he jump the shark when the lad cheated? Probably.
Well, I was going to ask you two guys, being the elder statesman, not a Tiswas guy, was it? No, not even before your time.
Right.
What is it? OTT? Was that the adult?
Yeah.
No, was it OTT? Was it? Yeah.
Adult Tiswas. It was on there. There's a
Before
good few
my time,
jokes which we'll leave out of the mix.
Before my time, Matty, that one.
Sorry, boys.
It's the next. It was the next guest on this one. As that was going to ask your opinion on as well. Steve Redgrave. I hate Steve Redgrave. Does anybody like? I've always had this I don't know if it's like an irrational hatred of Steve Redgrave, Britain's greatest Olympian TM kind of thing, but he always just looked like some old skinny fella who got rode to victory by four other lads to me, or 3 or 4 other lads.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
you having that, Matty?
I'm getting his age up now because you just put it in the head. He always looked about 50, didn't he? He's like a wrestling one now. I'm getting his age up, lad, but when he won his gold. See, I'm with you in a way that he did seem like Mr. Bourne, but I'm not going against me thing of I said it on, I think it's one of the previous episodes, we never back a winner. We always back that Eddie the Eagle finishing last underdog, and it does my head in. We should get behind Lewis Hamilton and Redgrave, though, Gareth, at the same time, because they're winners. We should be having them in high esteem. You know what I mean? Americans don't give a shit about losers. They care about winners. You know?
Did you bring up his age?
Do you know how old he is now?
I've got it here. Yeah.
Have a guess, boys. Go on. I've seen it myself, Liam, as well. What do you reckon?
Well, he was about 60 when he got his last gold medal, and Matthew Vincent rode him to a gold medal.
Where's the flowers for that bastard? Worked his arse off. He should have ended up with the Ben Fogle gig. No.
Steve Redgrave is 61 years old.
So Gareth, when he won his last gold medal, he was 38, my age now. Well, a year older than me.
To quote Brian Potter from Phoenix Knights, giving knighthoods to boat people is a bit much, isn't it? And when he gets find out about the Sir Steve Redgrave suite. You're
not having it as a share, Gareth? No, not having that one.
Nah, the John Tenter of rowing.
Look at how smug he is, though.
Yeah.
I will say about this episode, though, I cannot stand Jeremy Vine, but I like Tim Vine. And they kind of had a bit of a laugh and a joke with it. And then Status Quo played off each other well, I thought. these two came on, and it was so boring as a contestant. I was like, oh, I don't care if you win or lose here. I just couldn't care. They just did nothing to appeal to me.
They were married, to be honest.
You're not having red gravy, just as normal, purple shirt. You're not having that kind of flow.
It's telly, mate.
I was made up when he fucked it, and they ended up with $1,000.
Were you expecting him to show up in like full gimmick in the vest and all sorts?
It would have been better, wouldn't it, Liam? It would have been way better.
Gear. Well, someone who does show up in full gear, it's a nice little link into there. So we have another premiere to go to after this. We have the debut of Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares USA. Now, obviously, we'd had the British version. This one goes to Peters as the name of the bloke who, spoiler alert, he's a bit of an egotist, this lad, as he says, trying to find the fucking video for it on here as well. This guy, Peter, who serves him, was it like fucking stone cold crab meat and other stuff like this. Ramsay looking quite young before he decided to just fuck around with Gino off ITV, which seems like that's a massive. That's basically like that's like Drew McIntyre in 3MB, really, isn't it? You're just putting someone right down the card, aren't you? Trying to give Gino that Ramsay run.
And Fred,
at this point, he was up for the ruck, wasn't he? For this, he starts fucking slamming this place because it is a fucking shambles as well. It was like kind of perfect telly fodder for that point in time. And Kitchen Nightmares was great. Like
he's amazing, he was Ramsay, honestly, he cracks me up something rotten. Like there's that meme. I'm sure if you scroll through Instagram, you'll see it where he's just talking to the woman, and I can't do it justice. Honestly, how good it is. He's like, "Get out my way, get out my way." She's like, "I'm not in your way. Get out my way, get out my fucking way." And she goes, "I'm not in your way. Well, fuck off upstairs then." Honestly, boys, you've got to do it. I'll send you it though. I've just butchered it, but I will send you it. It cracks me up everything. And his appearance on Hot Ones, honestly, I have tears coming down my eyes of how fucking gone. He's got the lemon juice out and everything. It's amazing. Oh, love him. Watch him all day long.
And he
I love him here, where he's just giving this Peter guy loads, and you can just see like the staff in the background who clearly think he's the biggest fucking bell end in the world. Just like the face on some of them is like Ramsay's proper, just like telling him like it is, and like when he's fucking kicking off and fighting the fucking loan sharks in the street. It was a great episode. This I had the time of my life watching this. I thought I'm not going to like this when I was like click play, but again, I loved every second of it. Like he's there with his big fucking fancy watch and all that, and Ramsay's giving him loads over his watch and stuff because he's resting on shit and he hasn't invested anything in it. And
he buys himself a new fucking suit, doesn't he?
Ramsay's asking him what time it is all the time, like for his fucking watch. I love it.
Matty, what did you think about the doctor showing up and getting it free?
Which I must have missed. What was that, Liam?
There was a doctor in the restaurant having a meal, and he was having like a bottle of wine, starter, main, dessert, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that's free for the doctor. He looks after me, so I've got to look after him."
That's fair play. That anything for the freebie, we're all good with that. But it's like Ramsay, it's like just the way, because once again, I seen him obviously just with his cooking stuff, and then when he done all this, I blanked it once again. My mates, watch this, and I was like, no. But then once I watched it, I was just addicted to it, like in the hotel ones and that. But he's just fucking he's outstanding. He just loves it though, doesn't he? You can tell he genuinely even though his aim's to help them, he loves nailing them genuinely to book them up and put them into place, and that's what people like that need, don't they? They need it.
We'd had a load of nice cooks up to that point. Yeah. We weren't a million miles away from Ready Steady Cook, and we had Ainsley Harriott as the face of
Jamie Oliver
chef, and Jamie Oliver then there afterwards, and the rest of it. And it was it was one of the ones where he was an ex-footballer who'd gone into being a kind of, even though he was he was a youth player at Rangers, wasn't he? But he swore loads, and that was it, and it felt more realistic. And I'm not sure if I think this is out after Kitchen Confidential and Anthony Bourdain and stuff like that, where you're getting into the nitty gritty of what it is to be a chef and everything else, and the kind of pressurized environment and the abuse they give each other. You see this, I actually started just thinking of The Bear, which I know Liam, that's what you
Yeah.
recommended to me, and that's what I started like thinking of the dynamics of a restaurant and stuff like that. So when I saw Peter, I was reminded by like the cousin. And
Yeah,
stuff like
100%. I thought exactly the same, JP.
like, and you know, he's not the same kind of character as well, but you could see how this stuff is for reality kind of TV being made. This is the kind of stuff you go, well, this is why you make it. It's easy, entertaining TV that you can get immediately. This guy is shit at running a restaurant. You're under no fucking illusions about that whatsoever. He cannot do it at all. And yeah, like you guys, I had a lot of fun watching this.
Can I ask a big question and give him big praise before we move on here? Is he the Steve of chefs, Gareth? Ramsay? I'm going to give him that big praise there. Is he? Who's better? Who's better? All-rounder. Steve's the best all-rounder of all time for me. Who's a better all-rounder? On the mic, star-wise, good chef.
Gary
Give you the matches. Not in Ramsay's league.
You see, I'm a work rate Michelle Roux guy myself. Like,
oh, here we go. Here we go. Liam, who comes near Ramsay?
Well, if Ramsay's Steve, I'm going to say Bourdain's Brian Danielson. The matches, the personality, everything, it's there. I'm a Keith Floyd man. Big Keith Floyd man. Rick Stein, Keith Floyd. Who else we got? Rusty Lee. What a worker.
I was going to say Rusty Lee. Right there. 80s work, right?
Nigella, no? No one a Nigella guy?
Yeah, I think
Nigella was big time when she first dropped. Definitely.
It was, and she'd be going, I'm just cooking tea for my husband and my dad, and it's like, yeah, we're all cooking tea for a bloke who wipes Damien Hirst's ass with tenors and a former chancellor of the fucking exchequer as well. Like, it was just all of these things being kind of casually thrown in.
It was Jamie Oliver, Cena.
Oh, yeah, for me, yeah, because I can't stand Cena.
Yeah.
He's pure Cena. He is on here as well. Something that we've got noted down on here. This is the passing mention because I'd say I've never seen an episode of it. But The Big Bang Theory debuted September 24th. On there, did any of you have any particularly strong memories of Big Bang Theory? I know it became like kind of like a big sitcom at a time when I thought sitcoms were fucking weak, like at that stage, and it kind of like won a longevity race. But I've never seen that, and so obviously I've never seen Young Sheldon and the like as well. But yeah,
it's a big show though, isn't it? It's played like it's like the new Friends, where it's played around the world, isn't it? On any channel, like it's on loop somewhere in the world. It's a massive show, but I was never into it. JP, never.
I thought it was the AEW Dynamite pre-show.
Yeah. It's still going to this day. Get a big rating, though it is. It's still like, but they weren't they as well, which I like all this side. I don't know why, but I always do. It's like they were on mega money. It's them last couple of seasons. We're talking millions, each of them equal near enough, weren't they? They were all pretty equal though. They were all big stars in their own rights. Like there was like maybe the three of them. Like is it Penny, Sheldon, and I don't know the main guy's name. Penny's like on and off loving, isn't it? The one who used to be in Roseanne. I
was going to say Darlene's fella.
Yeah. Like they must have been like sharing that like big time. We're talking big money. Like so, I just love all that. Like Frasier was the one who got the most. Really, 2.4 million an episode he got at one point. Ridiculous.
24 episode series.
I hope this doesn't offend anybody that's listening, but I see Big Bang Theory as the equivalent of what I see Mrs. Brown's Boys over here as. It's just unfunny on all the time, obvious jokes that, never watched an episode, never will.
I can agree. Well, something that I don't even know if any of us managed to see an episode of, and this next clip is going to be very, very, very short because I did love the snide site that Liam had linked us to for this, but you know, we'll get on to EastEnders in a little bit. But someone who's ex-EastEnders in Michelle Ryan, this was meant to be her big TV break in the States, as the Bionic Woman, which was a role, I think it was Lindsay Wagner, wasn't it, back in the day, who'd kind of been a big star. I remember hearing about this and then never seeing it come out at all on there as well. So 21 seconds you got to see there of that clip of the opening credit sequence for it. I had issues trying to watch this, like kind of through the site on there.
I've watched it.
What did you make of it? Can you see why it wasn't renewed or made into a big series?
Absolutely. It's weird. It's like she puts on an American accent. I don't understand where the premises come from that she is the bionic woman. This is the actress we need for it. It's very much of the type of a lot of those shows of that era, like Firefly, Alias, stuff like that. It's very much in the similar vein to them. I don't necessarily think it's any worse than any of them, but it's just separating Zoe Slater from playing the bionic woman. I had difficulty with. Anybody want to guess how old Michelle Ryan is currently, as of this day?
Let me get do. So that's 07.
41.
I reckon 45.
Yeah, I'll go same as me, 45. Yeah, I was going to guess that.
39.
Really?
What?
Michelle Ryan is
really like kind of over at this stage. So what is Michelle Ryan up to these days?
Yeah, she hasn't been seen on.
How did she get that gig? Like, I just cannot understand for the life of me how she got that gig. Like, where, why, how? Like, it's so bizarre.
She's from Enfield. Fucking hell.
Did she die in EastEnders, JP?
She die in EastEnders? She's certainly never gone back to it, has she?
That's what I mean, because she would have been definitely wheeled back. She must have died.
I was going to say that. I can't think of anything she'd done after this, but you would imagine she would go. She would be in EastEnders.
Yeah, I reckon she must be killed off. Let me have a look at that.
But on here, like, the last thing he's got her on IMDb is Dark Stories TV series as Frankenstein Legacy, which is in post-production as Lady Charlotte, and Dragged Up Dirty as Lisa Kendall. So I'm assuming that's some gritty geezer-based thing that's going on here. She was in an episode of Death in Paradise, which I've never seen, which seemed like the greatest acting gig in the world. Let's go to the Caribbean and film a detective series. Yeah, all right. I'm fucking there.
Boys, she's actually not dead in EastEnders. I'm really shocked she hasn't come back.
What is going on? She did audition for the role of Vesper Lind in Casino Royale in 2006 and lost to Eva Green. How different things would have been if she'd gotten that.
Can't believe
it.
She's maybe big time in them at EastEnders. She's maybe too.
Gareth, everyone's come back, mate. Literally every character they've ever had has come back. Bloody hell!
Well, speaking of which, makes a nice little segue into the soap section. Now, we haven't got Brookside. That's dead at this stage, which is shocking. Finished in November 2003, which is all manner of wrong on there. But EastEnders certainly fucking hasn't. At this point, we're in, I want to say, 3rd of September 2007. And I watched this because I was in my phase of not having a fucking clue who was who at this point in time, like in EastEnders, like not a clue whatsoever. I was watching it. I was looking through the wiki for it as well, and even when I read it out, Kevin wrestles with his conscience over whether to report Chelsea and Dino to the police. I had to look up who all three of those people were. Ian Beale is there as well, when obviously, and he's with Lucy at this stage, who is the former babysitter. Is that right? That's the point we're at with?
No, that's his daughter.
No, Lucy's daughter.
Yeah,
Lucy's the daughter. Sorry,
Jane. He's with Jane, who's the original babysitter.
Yeah. Right. Okay. He loves himself a babysitter, a childminder, doesn't he? On that. Sounds very dubious, doesn't it? But yeah, Kevin, by the way, played by Phil Daniels. So we are at that kind of guest spot. We're going to get whichever cock, we're going to get some who can do a lovely sort of geezer accent around that neck in the woods. This
David Essex turns up a few years later, JP, as well.
Babs is still there. Samantha Janus is in at this point in time as well.
I'm just looking at my notes for this episode. How bad is Phil Daniels in this? His acting is it's almost like he's hamming it up, knowing that he's in a soap. But I'm not convinced he's that good an actor to ham it up like that. He sticks out like a sore thumb, which is saying something with the other caliber of actor he's got around him.
Yeah. it's weak, this roster at this
He's
point.
loved
in
though,
time,
Kevin.
isn't it?
Kevin's actually remembered as a big character though. He's actually well
he?
loved in the end. And they kill him off, yeah. They kill him off.
See, this is like I'd gone from like watching every single soap to at this point I was just like Corrie was the last one standing for me. Like I'd dropped off EastEnders probably about 2 or 3 years ago. So I was the same as JPE when I was watching this one. I just didn't know who half the fucking people were like in it, and then just the acting just stood out for me like a thumb. Like it was like a sore thumb. It was so bad, and it, like Liam says, Phil Daniels acting in this absolutely atrocious. But I was just sitting there, just thinking of the millions of people watching it, tuning in to watch it live.
8.55 million, mate,
like,
watched this episode.
Did you
Still getting big numbers?
Did you shed a tear of history when you saw the physical VHS being waved around, Matty?
Ah, took me way back, Liam. It's like just glory days, mate. Them Member X videos.
It annoys me that he's watched this video, but it's perfectly rewound back to the beginning as well. Really annoyed me that he was waving that about.
He definitely let it stop and then it just rewound itself, didn't he?
There's another plot line in this regarding Dot getting on the internet, which I'm sure was a plot line of an episode we saw in an early episode of Time with, was it Jim trying to get on the internet or something? Barry?
Long time story, that's what we want.
They were going into the shop,
video,
weren't they?
yeah, video.
Get Bradley in for the family, JP.
Will she ever get to grips with Bradley's computer? I hope for Bradley's sake, probably not. In that case, would be sort of shocking behaviour at this stage. It feels like we've lost Phil at this stage. Old Steve McFadden's gone on a bit of an extended break.
Doing panto.
Doing panto at this stage with the missus. And you're looking at like the cast in this, and you're thinking, okay, we've got Shirley in at this stage, who doesn't really mean anything to me, like in terms of my era of watching EastEnders.
Big
like,
star,
she's been in
JP.
for ages,
Big
but she
star.
is. I think it's more longevity. I think if we're making a WWE comparison, they've
Go on.
slipped into a groove here, haven't they, at this point? And
Randy
they've got
Orton,
that kind of
Shirley the
cast
Randy
list.
Orton.
Joe Swash in this, as well as Mickey Miller.
This hooked that hooked me in that though. That was a little bit of plot there. I was like, who's this girl? You want that girl who she's just like flirting with Swash in the cafe, and then gives him his number, and then she's flirting with, was he called Gus? Was he the other lad? She was then like flirting with him. I was like, what's her game? I was like, why is she just going turned up in the square and going around trying to pull every single bloke that's like in her vicinity, going and having a conversation with them? And kind of feel like I want to know the outcome to that one. So there you go. There's a little plot device there working for me anyway.
I don't know if you were the same as me, Matty, but big pop for Minty making an appearance.
Minty and Gary, one of the original Odd Couple tag teams, like Team Hell No. Minty and Gary. Legend Minty though, Liam. Just for pure, like, how was he Phil's mate though? Because when he first come into it, he was rock hard, really. He was like gangster type. That knew
Enforcer,
Phil.
yeah.
And then he was just a big lovable teddy bear in the end, really. You felt sorry for all the time.
Mankind.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, purely. Did he turn up in like Heartbeat or something? Or one of them shows on? No, he did. Or
that sounds
the Royal
no,
or something.
Call the Midwife.
There we go.
That's where I saw him. As I was
Similar
like,
type of show.
Minty. And it was like, yeah, there he is. And there's a place called Minty's Bed Store in Oxford as well. Terrible beds. And look like absolute cowboys as well. We never mentioned it, but Yuvraj Singh is a cowboy of a batsman for me. And that's a cowboy of a bed sales place. But you're mentioning Lovable Rogues. It nicely brings us on to our kind of our last bit of the TV for time as we're kind of approaching the end. And that's Roy Cropper, who plays a big part in this week's episode of Coronation Street from the 12th on here. I haven't got the ratings for this as well. I'm assuming he did around 8 million or so as well at the same time on here. We've got Roy snaps at cafe customers and continues to snub Hayley. The factory girls notice Roy's unusual behaviour on here. He's having a whole, and then at the end they have a big old kind of hug together because they're both suffering at the same time in there. That's sort of the big focus, but there's lots of people on here who I can't quite see.
Linda Block.
Linda Block from Dream Team.
I was waiting for you to mention that, Gareth. When I seen it today, I was waiting for you. I thought he's definitely going to mention that.
Linda Block, Linda Block.
But no, also in this, did you see the appearance by Michael Stark himself?
I've got it down in my notes. I forgot he was all in this as Jerry. I forgot he was in this, you know.
Jerry Morton, who comes in to open up a kebab shop in Coronation. That was the whole premise of him joining the show. There he is, Sinbad.
You see, all of my notes about this, I'm just calling him Sin on all of them.
Sinbad in capitals, I've got definitely. And Jerry in capitals as well. But I'll tell you what, though. Sorry, boys. Can I just say, like, we're talking inflation, like now. Free. The factory girls ordered 3 sausage sandwiches in Roy's. Less than a £5, £4.80 for 3 sausage butties. Unbelievable.
I can go better than that.
Well, I'm going to pause it there for a second because there's a shocking price behind here.
I've got it written down here. Shout out to Andy Ogden, who I'm sure will be loving this. But a full English breakfast, which consists of bacon, egg, sausage, beans, black pudding, tomato, toast, and fried bread, including a pot of tea, £2.95.
Mate, transform me back to 07.
£2.70 for a Cumberland sausage looks a bit steep on that board.
That's £3 for a steak and kidney pie, and it's just like it's just a pie by itself.
Chips and bread. That's got it. Roy won't shortchange you, mate. He'll give you value for money. Roy's rolls.
Roy's being fleeced here. Roy doesn't understand the price of it. In some ways, I wouldn't blame it if you walked in and went, "That's too cheap. That's too cheap. That's right. What is wrong with it?" Because that's a bit too much on there as well.
You can just
I'm sure Betty's hot pots for 50p. Fucking at the time, it's like.
You're getting a sausage on toast now for the best part of that £4.80, aren't you? Let's be honest.
You're lucky if you're getting that. I look at the Tesco's breakfast deal from their cap at $5.25, and that's not even the big breakfast, which is $8.50, which is a decent shout, by the way. Should have to say for that, but yeah, $2.95 for that.
You know what I like as well, though? None of this ash brown stuff in your breakfast there. I like Roy.
None of that.
What's your views on fried bread, everybody?
Yeah, I'll have a go. Just one, just an half or one though, not more than that.
I'd rather have toast.
Yeah,
I'd rather have toast, Gareth, of course. Of course.
This was just talking about the people there that we've we've bumped into from like other stuff. Just seeing Jason Grimshaw's face on this just reminded me of the time that he pushed in front of me at a carvery one time, and I'll never forget that ever. It's big time, and everyone walking straight to the front of the queue in the carvery that I was at somewhere. Every time I see his face, I just think, you fucking cunt.
Right, so that's him and Steve Redgrave on the naughty list now, guys.
So.
Preferred Francis Rossi.
Yeah.
But yeah, my notes in this. One of these actors that appears in this episode appeared in a film called Submerge with Steven Seagal. Any clues who that was?
Who's in this whole
I think it's Roy Cropper, but it really won't be, will it? Or Tyrone, for that matter.
Is it going to be Jack and Vina's like grandson? Is it him?
Nope.
Turns up. No?
Kelly Crabtree.
No, it is actually Linda Block herself. Alison King is in that film, which I'm surprised you haven't seen, Matty. Linda Block and Steven Seagal in the same film.
I should be able to. I should have seen that. JP, you know what to do with that, mate. In the drive, mate.
Okay, I think I Submerge. Okay.
Can I say one thing as well? When Ashley and Kevin are having that heart to heart with a can in the
ginnel.
Yeah, in the ginnel. There you go. I loved it. Like Ashley, like this just shows you. Ashley's like, you know, and he's comparing. It's like he's hoping and wishing. He said, you know, my marriage might come together. It's like Man City mightn't win anything. And I think, if only he knew what they'd win over the next fucking 16 years.
He'd be bored.
Yeah. He'd be loving it all, Ashley, wouldn't he?
He'd resent it. And this is age. Well, that shifty ex-Thai prime minister comes in, isn't it, and nearly kind of bankrupts the place as well. No, have we gone past that at this stage?
No, that's before. But I always loved it was he referenced City and United, but their local team was the county, weren't it? Was that meant to be Stockport, or was it just their own Weatherfield County? I'm sure it was Weatherfield County. Yeah. But you could reference fucking City.
They're like Walford Rovers with Sean Maguire playing for them. They got him over from Ireland, and I thought, well, this doesn't say much about the League of Ireland standard because he's not even playing anywhere. Like, I was good over there. Was he? Why is he playing pub football then? It's just fucking shocking behaviour.
But does anybody think both Coronation Street and Eastenders is just lacking of stars? There's just like it's just a bit turgid, isn't it? There's no excitement.
Now, what do you mean? Do you mean now?
No, I just mean these two episodes that we watched.
Oh, these two.
Just lacking big stars. That's like there's no like big storyline through the whole episodes. And like you like Vera's, your Jacks, your
Mike Baldwin,
Steve,
your Mike Baldwin, Steve. No, they're all just missing. You've got Sinbad brought into the territory for a bit of star power.
Yeah, jumped over from World Clash to Memphis or whatever.
Does a 6 month run, but he's stayed there as a.
Not doing no jobs on the way out though. He's just Sinbad. He's just going
right. Using the equivalent of Eric Embry and then buggers off. Is that what he is?
Putting no one over.
It's like Dev. Dev appears to be like a kind of like consider. You know, he's got that kind of longevity and the rest of it. He means nothing to me as like a as a character in.
Dev had a few big storylines though. The one where remember Mad Maya. Yes, well, that's huge, yeah. But the one with Mad Maya went round all his shops and blew them all up. And the last one was obviously the one on Weatherfield. That was a big storyline, that. Love that.
That was good, that.
Yeah.
Mad Maya.
Anybody,
that was what she was known as.
Anybody remember record shops?
They were great, weren't they?
The best. Oh, Dev, look, I actually took a screenshot. Look at Dev's wig at the back, though, when he turns around in a minute. Watch. Just wait till he turns side on. It's unbelievable stuff. I sent it to one of my group chats before. It's just fucking amazing.
Reading Golfing Life as well.
One of my favourites, Dev, one of my all-time characters in Corrie. Like, just wait here. It's coming. Video views, and you got to wait for this one. He just gives a little turn to the side in a minute.
You can't be advertising that tobacco in 2023, can he? You can't be having that at all. Not allowed in the.
I was more drawn to those melody.
Here we go, look. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. What a fella.
Brilliant stuff. And that brings us to the end of time, lads. That takes us to the end of TV, not to the end of time.
End of time.
Wow. That's it. It takes us to the end of the television section of time, which then in turn takes us to the end of time generally. Not like, not as a concept. Again, I'm not going all Stephen Hawking, which I feel is a joke that I've run.
Christopher Nolan, JP, you've turned into now.
I really have, haven't I? Yeah, there's no linear. Well, normally I think we go for a nice, straightforward linear narrative, don't we, when we record one of these? But yes, brilliant job. Absolutely loved it. Even
always
if
love it as always.
Large swathes of 2007, certainly September, is like a fucking weird haze.
We're going back in time for the next one, boys. We're going.
If you'd asked me about, I'm sure if we got CBeebies up from September 2007, I'd have been all over that shit. I'd have had it completely down pat as well. What was it that 74 Zoo Lane or whatever it was? And the rest. There it is. Get it back. That's where the real action was. On that as well. We didn't have I think we had CBBC as well at that stage, didn't we? So
let's go backwards. This is as close to modern day as I like to get.
Yeah, we're going back again. We'll go back the old 7 years. We'll go back and then 7 and 7 and then go back at 7 and 7. That's what we'll do. That's the script.
Well, that program with all those people getting old and how their lives never turned out the way it wanted to. And Michael Apted, I'm sure, is dead at this stage trying to film them. I'm sure most of them are dead.
As always, though, JP, as always, anyone listening, leave comments what you were up to in 07, any memories of what we've talked about, any memories we forgot. But and once again, thank you to Liam for putting this list together. Liam, you're in charge of the list every single time, mate. That's your duty, and we look forward to
brilliant job.
yeah, love
Thank
it
you,
so
boys.
much.
I enjoy it every time.
Great stuff.
Absolutely loved it. So I don't know if has anyone got any plugs or anything else they want to say?
No, we'll leave it for
In
you,
that case,
JP.
Yeah.
well, because it's not a Patreon show, I can say it normally. Bye.
Ta-da.
So yeah.
So yeah.